bothersome. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. And it's the morning call with Tom Dabertin. And this is a great day. It's the fifth Wednesday of the month. And that means that we're going to be here uninterrupted until 9 a.m. with you. So looking forward to taking your calls and talking about all kinds of issues that are coming up. But let's start out with traffic and weather. And Lynette's back today. So Lynette, welcome back. Good to see you. And let's begin with traffic. Overall, traffic's not looking too bad this morning. The toll road, Klein Avenue, 8094, all in good shape. 294 looks good. The across the line, the Bishop Ford looks pretty decent. Dan Ryan's not bad. Even the Kennedy's not bad this morning. So far, pretty clear sailing into Chicago. Now, every time I say that, as Lynette knows, it changes, and it changes rapidly. So in about a half hour, I'll probably be saying that it's traffic is bad, but right now traffic looks quite good on all the area expressways and toll roads. And with that, we'll go to weather.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, sorry, hold on. My mic seems to be a little low. All right. Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 46 degrees with highs of 57 and lows of 46. Should be windy with intervals of clouds and sunshine, and a jacket may come in handy today. Later tonight should be partly cloudy and breezy. And then tomorrow on Thursday we'll be having highs of 56 and lows of 42. Should be breezy with times of clouds and sun. And then Friday we'll be having highs of 55 and lows of 39 with times of clouds and sun. It should be chilly for trick-or-treating.
And I will be making the trip back up to the region this week, so hopefully the weather cooperates on the entire trip, but we'll be headed back up, so looking forward to it. And again, 845-1100 is the number to call if you want to join in this morning. I know that Trucker Mike said he was going to call in early this morning, so we've got lots to talk about. Probably the big news is there are a couple of declared candidates now in the race for Congress against Frank Mrvan. Not on the Democratic side. I don't expect anyone to declare candidacy on the Democratic side. But on the Republican side, a couple of names come about. The first one is one that people will recognize. Jennifer Ruth Green is running again. And then Barb Regnitz, who is a Porter County commissioner. And there seems to be a lot of interest in her. Talking to some members of the Lake County Republican Party, they're pretty excited about Barb Regnitz running for Congress. So they're saying that even if there's no redistricting, that she's a extremely viable candidate. And so I want to talk about that this morning because our representation, of course, in Congress is extremely important. There's a lot of different facets and a lot of different responsibilities that our congressman has, and Frank Mrvan has been there now for 3 terms, and it'll be very interesting to see if he pivots a little bit, because I think he's unfortunately found himself in the throes of the the National Democratic Party, which doesn't exactly align with Northwest Indiana. So we'll see where that takes us. But we've got plenty else to talk about. We've got a couple of callers, so we'll go right to the callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning, it's Trucker Mike.
Hey, Trucker Mike. So let people know how things are going. You called me, and I asked you to call in this morning and let people know because people still remember what happened 5 months ago.
Yeah. I doing excellent. I had my big deal happen, and all the wonderful people from the radio station jumped in and put their wonderful politics to the side. That day was the most inspiring day of my life because all the people came together as one person. But I'm doing good. Honestly, I was in and out of the hospital from July 9th till September 1st. I'm taking 8 medications. I'm seeing a lot better. I'm driving a lot better. I'm kind of working. The 19th of this November, I have an appointment with the retina. They're going to be able to fix my eye. It's good because, now when I went to the Halloween trunk or treat at Wicker Park Saturday, I can see a lot better. And there was 3 Jeds sitting on the back of the vehicle of a truck, dressed up as Jeds, But their costume wasn't real because I had said yesterday, where was the hair on the back of them costumes?
I don't know that I want to think about that at 6:05 in the morning.
Now, can anybody dress up Halloween like you on the parades with the coconut things? I'd like to see somebody have a Halloween costume like you dress up like.
You know what? They're welcome to do so. I'll even loan them the coconuts.
Now, I'm watching you on the TV. Don't you touch your phone, but I want to ask a trivia question to you. Now, I'm watching you, so you don't pick up that phone.
Okay, I'm putting my hands up.
Cheat.
Got my hands up.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
What was invented by Herbert Cecil Booth in 1901?
I'm going to say the vacuum sweeper.
Yeah. How did you know that? Gosh, I thought you wouldn't know that. Oh,
Am I right?
Yes, you are. I'm going to find a question that you won't be able to answer, Okay. But hey, now I'm not going to talk all this politics and everything, all that stupid stuff, but now you're going to be driving back up to come back to our wonderful region of Whiting, Indiana. What states do you drive from Florida when you leave to come up? What states do you go through?
So we drive through Florida, which is probably the longest drive. And then we go through the state of Georgia, and then through Tennessee, through Kentucky, and then into Indiana. So the longest drive is Florida, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Now, when you're driving through all them states and people driving, which state do you think that people drive normal? Don't drive like idiots.
Well, I have to say, Florida drives. The people in Florida drive fairly well. The biggest problem always is Georgia. People in Georgia drive a little crazy. It's and you, of course, being a trucker, you know the state of Georgia. You've got the hills in the north end, and the flatland in the south, and you get through Atlanta, and Atlanta is every bit as bad as Chicago when it comes to traffic. So that's really kind of a harrowing experience. Once you get out of there, you get into Tennessee. It's really pretty landscape. So is Kentucky, and then you get into Indiana. I will say that the worst state for rest stops is the state of Indiana. Probably the nicest are the ones in Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee and Kentucky have beautiful rest stops. I mean, they really are nice. And it's crazy to talk about that. But after all, when you're going to be in a car for roughly 22 hours, you think of having the stop as well. So,
yeah, now, today I was watching on the news and I heard it. NASA came out with that big airplane that's going to go 900 miles an hour and everything, That's amazing. 900 miles an hour. You think, okay, my wife's family lives down in southern Illinois. That's like 315. So that thing could go down, come back, go down, come back 3 times in an hour.
Well,
Amazing.
you know what? I think it's called the X-59. And what's really interesting about it is that when we had the Concorde could fly that fast. But the problem with the Concorde is people, of course, we banned sonic booms over the American population because of the problems that it caused for people and for dogs and for everybody else. The X-59 is basically being tested right now, and it's been proven to cushion the shock wave. So you really don't hear or feel the shock wave from going past the speed of sound. If the plane continues to test out and be successful, the idea is to build a whole new series of passenger planes that would fly above the speed of sound, but be able to fly over the American population without disturbing it, and that could be very interesting. So that's a real potential for the future.
And just think, on pierogi drop night at midnight, you could be 900 miles away, and you can leave wherever you're at 900 miles away and be there in 1 hour and be able to see the drop.
except that you'd get caught up in traffic at the airport.
I know. So, hey, I'm gonna let you go, and your producers and all you guys do a wonderful show this morning, and all the listeners enjoy your show this morning, and everybody just have a wonderful, safe day, and just be happy today.
All right, you as well. Thanks, Mike. 845-1100 is the number. We've got additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, have you gotten your COVID booster shot yet?
No, I've not. My doctor has said that he's undecided, and he's at the University of Chicago. So he'll let me know if he thinks I need it or not.
Well, I had it about a week ago, and it's clearly a kinder, gentler COVID shot compared to what it was during the pandemic.
And let me just back up, Walt. He and I last spoke about it in June, so he wanted to wait to see what the results were. So my guess is he'll tell me to get it, but and I will. But you say it's much kinder and gentler than the previous vaccines.
Went in like nobody's business, didn't feel a thing. Maybe 6 hours later, my left arm was a little sore, but didn't last long, and that was it. Compared to the COVID epidemic time.
Well, it's like anything, though. It's like anything. I mean, think back to the polio vaccine. Okay, so when the polio vaccine first came out, they didn't have it dialed in correctly. Remember that? There were problems, and it took a while to improve the efficacy that we now have. So with anything, time improves those kinds of medications and vaccines. And again, if my doctor says I need one, I'll certainly have it. No problem, no question. I believe that there are things we need to do, just like the flu. If we can take a flu shot, and yes, the flu shot is never 100% accurate. People can still get the flu. But you know what? If I can take a vaccine that gives me a better than 50-50 chance of avoiding the flu, I'll get the shot.
Absolutely. And it'd probably make your insurance company, health insurance company, happy that you're doing the conventional thing. I think they really like that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that look, I get it. I understand. I read the statement that Bobby Kennedy and Health and Human Services put out about vaccinations of infants, and it does make some sense about some of the liquids and some of the minerals that are being used to help preserve those vaccines could be a problem, and giving all the vaccines in that unified shot could be a problem. And to me, I remember when my kids got vaccinated and how much they hated the shots and how much I hated to see them go through the pain of getting stuck. But I felt it was the right thing. And what Kennedy is saying is that maybe we have to go back to stretching them out as single shots.
Right.
I think some of that makes sense. And if it helps protect individuals, I'm all for it. But I also don't believe that it makes sense to say, well, I'm not going to give any vaccines to my kids. I think kids need to be vaccinated. There are a lot of really bad things out there, including polio.
Right. I remember getting my polio shot. My parents negotiated. There were three of us in the family at the time, three kids, and my parents negotiated a package deal with. I think the doc's name was Benchik. He had an office on near the intersection of Chicago Avenue and Lagoon, and we went in there, and we boys were very stoic about it, and it didn't cause too much of a fuss, and it worked. It took the terror of getting polio out of the picture. I mean, I remember the summers how there was a great sense of fear and all kinds of rumors. Like if you remember the days when they delivered ice, there was the Iceman delivered ice blocks for people's refrigerators, and there was he would jab away at it, and the pieces of ice would fly. And I remember being told, "Don't pick up that that ice and eat it," because there was all kinds of rumors that if you ate that ice, that it might cause you give you polio. And
well, I remember two individuals who had polio that I've met in my life, and one was a former Cardinal of Chicago, Cardinal Francis George, and he told me when I met him that he had wished that he was just a little bit younger. And he said, because if I had been, I would have been able to get the vaccine and I would have been protected. And then the second one was a woman that worked for me at the Museum of Science and Industry, and her name was Deborah. And Deborah said that her parents didn't believe in getting the vaccination, and she had two sisters and a brother and herself, and all her siblings did fine, but she ended up getting polio when she was about 12, and she spent the rest of her life using braces and using crutches. And
right.
She said she would have given anything to have had that vaccine. So
right. Well, Trump is overseas in a big success. The media has not been covering it, but the latest stop was in Japan, and Toyota announced that they were going to invest like $10 billion in investments here, building factories and so forth in the States.
Well, actually, it's 581 billion, and 10 billion is by Toyota.
So that's the total.
So it's 10%. 581 billion is roughly 10% of Japan's economy, which is about $6 trillion a year. So it's a significant investment. And whether you like Trump or not, he's done a great job in rallying other countries to invest in building in the United States. He has done a phenomenal job. There's been no president probably in modern history that has negotiated as many deals as Donald Trump. And, that's one of his strong points. There's plenty of negatives, but you got to give the man credit. He has done a phenomenal job getting foreign investment in the United States.
Well, when he started talking tariffs, I mean, you had Democrat-affiliated economists saying it would precipitate a depression, reminding people of the 1930s and so forth. But in fact, none of that has happened. And here's a piece out of the Times on October 25th. Trump's tariffs raised prices less than many economists expected, because one of the things they predicted was big inflation. Now, where does this article appear? Page A6, below the fold line. How about that? That's me.
Well, I have to say I'm troubled sometimes by the way the news media in general presents things, and including the Times. The Times has in recent years has pivoted from being really kind of centrist to leaning a little bit too left. I read another story written by Dan Carden, and I know Dan, and Dan's always written some really good stories and really good articles, but there seems to be a deliberate slant. And Dan and others need to remember that, hey, look, they're there to report the news, not to influence the news. And it's just troubling, but it is what it is. And of course, the Times has lost some readers too. So, it worries me even more that people aren't getting their news sources from a reputable publications. They're getting it from online sources. And you can go online this morning and you can find stories that say all kinds of crazy things. And people believe it because it looks legitimate. It says the American Times, and people read it and say, "Oh, see, this is true. This is what happened." It's just some guy sitting in his basement, probably in Russia, creating a false story, and that's worrisome to me, because we need people to be educated. We need people to be knowledgeable about what's going on, and not believe some of these ridiculous stories. And I mentioned this before on the radio. I have a lot of friends on Facebook, and I know I have some that cringe when they see that I've commented on a story, because they post these things and they post these stories and they say, see, this is what's going on. And it's like, no, if you go to Snopes, for example, you'll see that it's been discredited completely, that it doesn't exist, that it's a phony story. And that's bothersome too. So,
well, Dan Carden is definitely a man of the left, and I read whatever he has to say. I'm always interested. To me, it's a litmus test of what the left is up to. But I thought that when the cable television came in and you started getting these conservative cable programs, that the left, that the media establishment would move more toward the center. I was wrong. I mean, they have moved.
Well, I think you're going to see some movement in two major news organizations. One, you're going to see some significant change at CBS, because Larry Ellison has bought it, and there's no doubt where his views lie. So I think it's going to move to the right. I also think that CNN is going to change, because CNN is owned by Warner Discovery, and the new owners of Warner Discovery have said, we're not going to continue to waste our money on an organization that continues to bleed. And just the other day, the head of CNN actually came out and told his news staff to quit running stories about the ballroom that Trump is building, because he said no one cares, and no one's interested. And he said you're just feeding the the social media threads, and it's just a waste of time, and people are done with it. And so I think you're going to see some change there. But media as a whole, I think will probably still stay pretty liberal for the most part. You'll have a few more sources that seem to lean to the right or lean to the center. I wish there were more sources in the center. I really don't want everything to be sugar-coated from the right or from the left. I'd like to have something in the middle, but that's going to be quite a challenge. Let's put it that way. You're not going to see Fox News pivot more to the center, and you're not going to see MSNBC pivot more to the center anytime soon. That's for sure. Hey, Walt, we've got to take a break. Thanks so much for calling.
Sure enough.
And why don't we do that? Let's take a quick break. You're listening to The Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. You can also get us on YouTube Live, on JED TV, and the TuneIn app. So we'll be right back after these commercial announcements.
Truck drivers, don't miss out on the unmatched consistency of a Schneider driving job. At Schneider, you can find a driving position that fits your lifestyle and goals, all while getting the pay you deserve. Plus, Schneider drivers operate state-of-the-art, well-maintained equipment and have access to award-winning benefits and a 24/7 support team. Explore Schneider's huge selection of driving jobs today and find your perfect fit at SchneiderJobs.com. That's SchneiderJobs.com.
Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana wants to make you a winner every Friday in October with our $500K Double Down giveaway. Earn entries each week to boost your chance of winning a guaranteed $50,000. Then you can choose to walk away or risk half for a shot at $100,000 in cash. Do you dare to double down? Only at Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana, just off Exit 6 I-80-94. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
But it's time. You gotta catch up with me. Yeah. I'll catch up with you. I'll be right back. I'll see you in a minute.
Anything else? Yeah.
Well, what's up, boy? Hey, Ryan. Not tonight, man. Not tonight. Oh, yeah. You guys are right. Hey, come on. Let's go. Come in.
All right, folks, and we're back. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Let's go back to traffic and weather. Traffic this morning still looks pretty good. The Dan Ryan is starting to back up down to about 47th. There's the normal backups on the Bishop Ford. But other than that, across the line, it looks pretty good right now. When you get into Indiana, 8094, the toll road, Klein Avenue all look pretty decent this morning. So not a lot of traffic to talk about, which is good news. And it was kind of fun on that break. I could hear some of the ads. So shout out to Dave and Nicole. Know them very well. David Westland, Nicole Bennett, and Tech Credit Union, of course. My good friends at Tech Credit Union. What a great institution they are. So 845-1100 is a number to call, but let's do weather before we go on with Lynette.
Good morning, Sorry, my mic is low once again. Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 46 degrees with highs of 57 and lows of 46. Should be windy today with intervals of clouds and sunshine, and then later tonight should be partly cloudy and breezy. Tomorrow on Thursday we'll be having highs of 56 and lows of 42. Should be breezy with times of clouds and sun. And then Friday we'll be having highs of 55 and lows of 39 with times of clouds and sun, and should be chilly for trick-or-treating.
And just a little side point about the weather. I believe this is the first year in many years, more than a decade, that the United States has not been hit by a hurricane or a tropical storm this year. Melissa is churning out in the ocean, but it looks like it's going to go north and east and away from the United States. It was a horrible Category 5 hitting Jamaica and some of those areas, but it's not going to hit the United States. And it's about the end of the hurricane season, which means that the U.S. basically has not had a major hurricane or tropical storm this year, which is pretty remarkable. 845-1100 is the number. Lynette, do we have a caller holding or not?
We have one caller.
All right, let's go to the caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. There's a lot of things going on.
Sure is. There sure is.
Did Jennifer Ruth resigns? Via Thomas, Riley Gaines, men and women's sports who Mervyn supports.
So let's go to the race. So you've got Jennifer Ruth Green, who ran 4 years ago and almost beat Frank Mervan. She lost by five points. And at the time, a lot of the opposition to her said, well, she was a carpetbagger. And so she's kind of proven that she's not. But she's got there's also some issues swirling around in Indianapolis about her and some ethics violations during her time as head of Homeland Security for the state of Indiana. She served under Mike Braun since January, basically, and she resigned. And then there's Barb Regnitz, who is a Porter County commissioner, and a lot of Lake County Republicans seem to be really, really high on her candidacy. And their point is that she wins Porter County hands down. She's very popular. She's very intelligent. She's very capable. I think she's a vice president at an investment company. And they say she will be the candidate. So it'll be an interesting race between her and Jennifer Ruth Green to see who gets the nomination. And then you've got Frank Mervan, who continues to.
That's the one I wanted to hit.
Well, he continues to say things that people want to hear, but his actions say otherwise. So you brought up Riley Gaines. And he says, I'm not for men and women's sports. Yet he voted against the act that would have outlawed it. He says that he's for a safe border, but he didn't support a lot of the legislation about the border. He didn't. He says that he's for a lot of things. He says I'm bipartisan.
Tax on tips. You missed that one.
Yes. He missed that one. He missed the one on Social Security. He also says that he is bipartisan, yet he is basically not proven to be bipartisan at all in anything that comes up before Congress. And the biggest issue that a lot of people have, including myself, is I like to see his legislative record, because he hasn't done a very good job in pushing and supporting legislation. And so he's got some issues. He says one thing, but he does another because he's beholden to the National Democratic Party, and everybody knows it. I mean, talk to local Democrats, and they point out, well, Mervan has to follow the National Democratic Party because they bailed him out during his race with Jennifer Ruth.
You know what? That's all good, but when you don't stand for a kid that got cancer, you know what?
I agree.
That's terrible. But one of my things here, the real reason I called about Trump winning, something good. Cleveland Cliffs lands $400 million defense contract. And whose back of his head is in there, and you can't miss it, is Mervyn. This isn't Mervyn, okay? Mervyn signed to give our jobs to the European Union October 21st, 2021, okay? I've got that article. Him and Biden decided to give our jobs to the European Union steelworker jobs over the transatlantic climate plan. I got 50 years in the steelworkers, okay? I want somebody. I don't like when Jed tells me something. He wasn't a steelworker. He didn't even put 10 days in the inland steel. Okay, he couldn't carry my tool belt. I really get mad when people jump up and they're radio hosts and they talk about all they know about the steelworkers. But pictured here in the Times is Lorenzo Conclaves, and it helps everybody that works at Inland, well, I call it Inland Steel. I got my 25-year watch 25 years ago, I think, or more than that. So,
well, MX, I always defer to you when it comes to talk about the steel industry. You are a diehard member of the steelworkers. You work there. I didn't, and so I do defer to you because you have a perspective that I can't have. My father worked for Republic Steel. That's a connection family wise to the steel industry, and And look, I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm a little surprised that when it comes to the Steel Caucus, I think Mervan is the co-chair of the Steel Caucus in the House. Is that correct?
You know what? He's grandpoopa. He's this. He's that. But he gave our jobs away. And when you do that, a guy like me, my livelihood and my insurance benefits depends on Cleveland Cliffs. Okay, and he gave my jobs away. Iron workers, they'll claim the parking lot. They'll claim everything. Don't give my jobs away. And Mervyn did it. Now he's got his head in there with Lorenzo conclaves like he did something. That's all Trump, okay? That's Trump. Now, Trump had the Trump card with U.S. Steel, and Nippon wanted to shut down the Riverdale. He says you can't shut nothing down. So Trump was smart enough to put that clause in there, you can't shut nothing down. But this guy here, this Frank Mervyn and all his little minions, I'd go with a different Democrat. You know what? If I had to, I'd go with a different Democrat. But I'm really going to check out. But after here, look here. He supports women. He supports men in women's sports, and Riley Gaines is against that. On Leah Thomas, she come out and she wants to debate AOC. And then
I saw that she challenged AOC to a debate. Yes.
This guy is, he just, I don't care if you're for the party or not. You have to stand for a little boy with cancer. He got his head split open 11 times. And then he was okay to let people across the border. Now look at the mess we're in.
Let me hold on, MX. Let's back up. No. Let's back up. Let's back up to the kid with cancer. So I have a friend who a lot of people know him, Doug Ross, writes I think for the Post Tribune now, and he says, well, you bring up the kid with cancer, but Mervan, I guess, said at a town hall meeting in Porter Town Hall before that he regretted not standing. My point is, I never saw anything on social media. I never saw a statement. He may have said it at a meeting at the town of Porter, but I never saw anything come out about that. And that bothered me. When I watched that speech and I saw that there was a handful of people sitting on their hands and refused to stand for this poor child who had gone through, as you said, a dozen operations on the brain for brain cancer, and he wouldn't stand for him, and you saw very clearly, just as I did, that he refused to stand. That really said a lot about Frank's views. Now, did he make a mistake? I guess he's admitted that he has, but I've never seen anything on social media. I've never seen a statement from him saying, I wish I had stood for that child and I'll never do that again. That would go a long way to rectify that situation, but you never see that. He tells, he says, well, I think I made a mistake, and he said it in some small group setting. But why not put something out and stand behind, your statement? Go ahead.
Remember, I'll let you go with this. I'm going to meet the boys for breakfast. But when I didn't shake his hand a few years ago, there was a reason for that. You know what? If you're going to be a man, this is before he pulled that stunt with that kid. I knew when he gave our jobs up and couldn't. Oh, you got to go with the party and give our jobs up? You give nothing up, okay? But I didn't shake his hand. I took a beating on it. Now I look pretty good, and have a safe trip home. We'll climb that tower together.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for calling. 845-1100 is the number to call. Again, one of the big stories that is going to evolve in the next few months is the fact that there are two pretty viable candidates for the Republican nomination for Congress. Now, again, it remains to be seen. There's a wild card, which is Mike Braun, who I don't really care for as governor, who wants to redistrict the congressional districts in Indiana, largely to give the Republicans a supermajority. They already have a majority, but kind of a unanimous majority, I guess, when it comes to congressional districts in Indiana. I don't agree with that philosophy at all. I don't agree with that tactic. I just want to say that. I think that If you want to run somebody against Frank Mervan for Congress, and you're a Republican, run somebody good. And it looks like they're going to have a couple of pretty decent options. And I think Mervan's got some issues, folks. MX is a lifelong steelworker, and he's not the only one that I've talked to. A lot of steelworkers seem to be less than enamored with Frank Mervan when it comes to their issues. There are people like myself who are still bothered by the fact that he couldn't stand for a young man that had cancer and had gone through, just a horrible, horrible childhood with all the surgeries and all the operations that he's had. So I think there are things that Mervan, his refusal to support the movement to keep men out of women's sports. I think those are all mistakes on his part. It remains to be seen if he can reclaim some lost ground. I also know that there are a lot of local politicians who aren't enamored with his chief of staff, Mark Lopez, who I know quite well. But people are saying, Mark was a holdover from Visclosky, and it's time to move on and get somebody new in there. And so there's issues with him. So it's a complicated situation, and how it plays out, I just hope and pray that it plays out that we don't go and redistrict. I think redistricting is wrong. I think that if you want to put a good candidate in there, again, a lot of Republicans are really excited about Barb Regnitz, then so be it. I don't know anything about her yet, but I'm going to try and find out more. 845-1100 is the number to call, and we've got callers. So let's go to the calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi. Speaking of Frank Mervan, the New American Magazine, I think on a quarterly basis, prints the voting record of all members of Congress. And Mervan's 100% right along with the most radical elements of that party. I haven't seen where he's actually bucked that system at all. I called his office the other day just to let him know, as far as I'm concerned, he hasn't shown any leadership skills at all. He's a lackey of whatever the radical Democratic Party wants to legislate. He hasn't shown any independence at all of that party. It's just, if he did actually demonstrate any kind of a will of his own, I probably would give him the credit for it. I would give him the credit for it.
What? You know what? I think he did.
For a little sick child, give me a break.
I think he did show some initial independence. His first term, his first 2 years were different than his last four. The last four he has been the ultimate party man. Whatever the National Democratic Party tells him to do, he does. And we've had some elected officials actually on this program who've mentioned that the fact is that he got bailed out in his race against Jennifer Ruth Green. It was a very close race 4 years ago, and the National Democratic Party basically bailed him out. They gave him a lot of money with the stipulation that Mervan was going to do whatever they told him to do, and he has been Mr. Party Man ever since. And if I were Frank Mervan at this point, I think the Democratic Party, the national party, not the local party's fine, but the National Democratic Party is in such disarray right now. With running Mandami in New York and some of the crazy stuff that people like Bernie Sanders and AOC say, Jasmine Crockett. I think that if I were Frank Mervan, I would say, hey, you know what? I've done my part. I'm bucking you. Good luck. You can't get rid of me anyway. They're not going to run anybody else against Frank Mervan. There's no candidate that could run on the Democratic side and beat Frank Mervan in the primary. None. Zero.
How about a guy by the name of McDermott?
No chance. None. Zero.
I don't know.
No, Tom has said it himself. He said it when he's been on with me. He can't run for Congress. Okay? He can't. It would be almost impossible for a Democrat to run for Congress at this point against Frank Mervan. The party he's too entrenched in the party, even locally. Do you really think that local officials are going to buck the current sitting congressman in their own party to support somebody else? It's just not going to happen. So
it's like you say, if you don't toe the line, you're going to get primaried out in the Democratic Party. And Tom McDermott's he's not that old. He's got ambitions. He's always wanted big higher office. The only way out of Hammond, Indiana, is to that I could see for him as Lake County congressman in this district. I don't think downstate would ever support him, but that's his one ticket out. And,
he can't get elected. He can't get elected statewide. You're right. He can't get elected statewide. The only chance is congressman, but he is not going to pick a primary fight against Frank Mervan. That's just not going to happen. I can tell you right now, it's just not in the cards.
Because the thing is, I mean, as a primary, to primary somebody that actually the Mervan's given the Democratic Party no reason at all to primary him. He's done everything they want. In fact, I called his office the other day and told him, as far as I'm concerned, he's a career politician. All he cares about is staying in office. He'll do whatever they tell him to do. He's a puppet, basically.
Well, for the National Democratic Party, again, there are a lot of things that I think the vast majority of people that live in Northwest Indiana are not supportive of men participating in women's sports. They're not. Okay.
Well, nobody's saying this.
But Mervan refused to take a stand. Okay. He did not take the stand that the majority of people. I think that was one of those signs where the Democratic Party, the national party, told him, this is how you're going to vote. And he said, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. And he did what they told him. He did their bidding. And if I were Mervan at this point, what does he have to lose? If he tells Nancy Pelosi and he tells Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer and the rest of them to go pound salt, what are they going to do? They're not going to put anybody in against him. They're not.
That's where you and me disagree, Tom. I think that that's how they maintain their control over all these people. You don't do with who's ever running that party.
Let me ask you this. Hold on. Let me ask you this. Who are they going to put in then? Who would they primary against Frank Mervan? Okay, and wait a minute. Tom McDermott, we've said this before. Like him or dislike him, Tom McDermott is nobody's puppet. Okay? You think the National Democratic Party would ever put Tom McDermott in against a guy that they have some control over?
Well,
I don't think so.
To be seen. When the leadership of that party tells you to jump, that whole party is a monolith. That whole party is actually run from the top. That's why guys like Mervan toe the line. It's get in or get out.
But you think that Tom McDermott would be a better puppet for the National Democratic Party? I don't think so. I think I totally disagree.
I can't say. I don't know enough about it, but I wouldn't doubt it. And
I know Tom McDermott.
That party has over their rank and file.
I know Tom McDermott well enough to know. I know Tom McDermott well enough to know that Tom McDermott is not going to be the puppet for the National Democratic Party. That's not going to happen. No chance at all.
That would be an interesting situation then, if that's the case. If you're right about that, but you can't tell me they couldn't find somebody around here to actually primary Mervan if he ever got off the reservation. Come on. These guys manufacture candidates. Look at where Mandami come from. I mean, this guy popped up out of no place. I mean, they have these people waiting in the wings. Obama for another guy. This guy was groomed since he was probably 12 years old. This is the way it operates.
I agree with you. I agree on a lot of what you're saying, but I think that the National Democratic Party, if Frank Mervan told them to pound salt tomorrow and said, you know what, I'm moving on and I'm going to represent my district instead of representing the interests in Washington, I don't think that they would be able to do a darn thing. They probably wouldn't give him any more money, but I don't know that he'd need the money. I think that if he made that change, if he pivoted to represent the interests of the people in Northwest Indiana, I don't think he'd have to worry at all. I think he's got name recognition. I think he's got relationships with people that I don't think that the National Democratic Party brings anything to the table except money, and I think Mervan could basically jettison his relationship with them tomorrow morning, and it wouldn't make a bit of difference with his popularity or his viability as a candidate in Northwest Indiana. I just don't.
Well, if he showed some independence, I think it would help his status with people in this district. But I don't see any indication that he has any streak of independence in him as well or able to do that. To me, it looks just like another Democratic career politician. But go along to get along. That's it. I mean, he's voted 100% along with Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, I don't see. I look at his voting record. It's in the New American Quarterly, and he has not one iota of independence at all from the platform of that radical party.
I totally agree with you, and that's what my whole premise is this morning is why bother? Why does he need the National Democratic Party? It doesn't represent the views of his district.
Yeah, he just for whatever reason, the reason people seek those offices, they want I guess they want to get rich. They want to have a legacy. They want to have a career. That's why they do it. I mean, these people are they're harder to get rid of than ticks. Once they're in there and embed themselves, you can't get rid of these people. That for whatever reason they're drawn to that kind of thing. I don't know why I don't know what motivates them.
You know what? And let's leave the discussion with this. I think you just made the perfect case for term limits, whether it's local or state or national. I think term limits work. I think we need term limits in this country.
I agree with you, but I don't think it'll ever happen. I wish it would, but I don't think it will.
No, because there's too much greed and too much corruption that goes on. They're not going to implement term limits. You're absolutely right.
How do these guys all go to Congress and become millionaires within a few years? How does that happen?
Well, you wonder. I mean, they're making $175,000 a year and they become millionaires. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, thanks so much for the call.
All right, thank you.
Should we take one more caller and then go to the break, or you want to take the break first? Okay, we're going to take the break. If you're holding, just stay right with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes. It's Tom Dabertin, the Morning Call on WJOB.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
Have you ever considered becoming an iron worker? Local 395 is now accepting applications for their apprenticeship program. Go to ironworkers395.com. Look under the training section, click on apprenticeship, and scroll down to the application. You must be 18 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, and you must be physically able to perform the work of the trade. Find out more by calling the apprenticeship school in Lake Station at 219-962-7675 or visit ironworkers395.com.
Tired of that cracked driveway? Dreaming of a new patio or need a concrete partner for your next big project? Call RNC Concrete Construction, family owned with 30 plus years serving Northwest Indiana. From residential driveways to stamped patios and commercial foundations, we pour with pride and deliver lasting quality. Call today for your free estimate at 219-779-9370. That's 219-779-9370. RNC Concrete, where your concrete vision comes to life.
Siri, read me that text.
Sorry, I can't complete your request.
You want me to read that?
No, I got it.
Construction zone.
I see it.
Watch it!
Oh.
Oh my God! You're gonna hit him!
Oh, fuck!
When driving in a construction zone, be smart, be alert, be in the zone.
This is Brian Short, business manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save lives. We're all in this together.
A message from Indiana's District Council of Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Do you want to get a vaccine, but it's difficult to get to your healthcare provider? Call the folks at Right Care Pharmacy. They'll come to your home, discuss your vaccination status with you, and administer the appropriate vaccine with expertise. They offer vaccines for flu, shingles, pneumonia, hepatitis A and B, TDAP, RSV, and COVID. They've been serving the Lake and Porter County community for over 11 years and are fluent in Spanish. Call Right Care Pharmacy at 219-655-5028.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, powers health.
All right, we're back. And Lynette, all I can say is better you than me, because I saw that you rolled over your cord, and I do that all the time when I'm in the studio. So that was a good save when you pulled your head down real fast. 845-1100 is the number to call, and we've got callers, so let's go right to the phone calls this morning. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, Tom, this is Rick. Yeah, I agree with that last caller. It's time for Mervan to go. He's got to go.
Well, I think a lot of people have some real issues with him, and whether the question is whether people will cross lines and vote Republican. I don't believe you're going to see anybody in the primary go up against him. No viable candidate, but I think you're going to see a couple of viable candidates running on the Republican side. You already have two: Jennifer Ruth Green, who ran 4 years ago, and then Barb Regnitz, who is a Porter County commissioner. And my understanding from a lot of Lake County Republicans is that she's going to be the one to beat. So, again, I don't understand Mervan. I've invited him to come on my show several times. He won't come on because he doesn't want to take calls. All right.
Right.
Look. You know what? You need to face the music, Frank. And I think one of the things that he also is afraid of is that I'm going to ask him, my very first question is going to be, why didn't you stand for that little kid with cancer? And number two, why are you so beholden to the National Democratic Party? The National Democratic Party doesn't represent the values in Northwest Indiana. It just doesn't.
They don't. And the fact is, these politicians, they have egos as big as the cars that they drive. Marvan has been in there 2 terms, so now he's going to get insurance for him and his family for the rest of his life. So
3 terms.
You got to have 3 terms?
Yeah, this is his 3rd term. Yes.
Yeah. Well, after 2 terms, you get health care for you and your family for life. All the perks. So, and as far as McDermott, at least McDermott has some sort of, he would have stood. No matter what, I guarantee you, he would have stood for that kid. And
he said when he was on with me that he not only would have stood for the kid, that he would have been standing on the table clapping for the kid. And I believe that. I know him quite well. There is no doubt in my mind that had Tom McDermott been in that position, that he would have been jumping up and down, screaming and hollering and clapping for that kid. This is a guy who who shaves his hair every single year to raise money for cancer, for kids with cancer. Okay. There's no question where he would be on that. And I will say this much. Would he buck his party? In a heartbeat. All right, the fact that they gave Mervan millions of dollars to bail him out during the Jennifer Ruth Green contest. If it were Tom McDermott, yeah, he'd be like, okay, thanks a lot. Now I'm doing what I want to do. There's no question in my mind.
I'd like to see Tom McDermott run again, but I don't know, because that Green, as far as I'm concerned, she's a plant. She's a plant for the Democratic Party. That's how I look at her. And then McDermott, he's not going to run on a Republican ticket. He just wouldn't do that, because if he loses, he's not. I don't know about him being the mayor again. But I think
he could stay as mayor. He could stay as mayor, but there's no chance that he's going to run as a Republican. No.
Okay, but what I'm saying though is, you got to get. I think the field is going to get a little crowded. If that guy from Lowell decides to run, again.
I don't think Randy Niemeyer is going to run. I don't think Randy's going to run. I think he's going to support Barb Regnitz. And again, I know nothing about this woman. I only got her name yesterday. I looked her up. I saw that she's a Porter County commissioner. I saw that she does extremely well politically. As far as her, her election to office, she seems to be very popular. She seems to be very well liked. I'm told that she's got tremendous support for her run, and that she's going to be. A lot of people think she's going to be the candidate, but a lot of people also thought that when Jennifer Ruth Green ran, that the former mayor of LaPorte, I forget her name now, that she was going to be the candidate. She was young, she was attractive, she had done a good job as mayor of LaPorte, and she got smoked by Jennifer Ruth Green. So you never know how people are going to vote in primaries either.
Well, I'd like to see McDermott run, but he's going to have to answer why the debt is so high in Hammond and stuff, and I don't think he wants to do that. So it might just be these two people, but anybody but Marvan. I would vote for a gorilla before I'd vote for Marvan. Marvan has to go.
Let me ask you a question, Rick. Let me ask you a question. If Marvan tomorrow pivoted and said, "Look, I'm going to change my views on things. I'm going to come out and I'm going to be my own man. I'm going to represent the will of my constituents, and I'm going to clearly support certain things. I'm going to be bipartisan when it's necessary. I'm going to take a stand on banning men and women's sports. I'm going to, apologize to the kid with cancer. I'm going to do a whole bunch of things to right the boat." Would you reconsider your support?
No, because he's only saying it because it's an election year.
Okay.
These people will tell you that Santa Claus is real. I don't believe the politicians. And I certainly don't believe the Democrats. And no, I would not vote for Marvan if he said he was going to find a cure for cancer. I wouldn't do it because it's just smoke and mirrors.
Real fast, it is 7 a.m. in the Calumet area. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Sorry about that. Had to give the station identification. Well, it remains to be seen. Again, I think he's going to have quite a challenge. I think he's got two declared candidates on the Republican side that are going to be quite a challenge. And I mentioned before there's a lot of grumblings that I hear from local Democrats. So it just depends on how hard they're going to support him. And that'll be an interesting 2026, that's for sure. Hey, Rick, thanks so much for calling.
Marvan's got to go, and I mean, there's not a debate. It's a fact. He has to go.
All right, thanks so much. 845-1100 is the number, and we've got another caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, will you tell your listeners that you were wrong in reference to Tom McDermott?
About what?
Well, I received a phone call reminding me of a Tom McDermott statement where he boldly and loudly proclaimed, "I'm going to be a soldier for Nancy Pelosi."
Oh, I remember that. Absolutely. And I think that was a big mistake of his, and I think that cost him votes when he ran for Congress. I think that was a huge mistake. I agree with you.
So how do you tell your listeners on the morning of 29 October in the year of our Lord 2025 that you don't think he would fall in line and just do what his handlers tell him to do. If he says to everybody, I'm going to be a soldier for Nancy Pelosi.
I will say this much. I have known Tom for a long time, and I also know that he admits a lot of times when he says things that he's wrong on, and he's actually admitted that was a big mistake. You don't hear that from a lot of politicians, and probably one of the things that keeps McDermott popular, unlike Mervan, is that McDermott will admit that he makes mistakes. Now he made some mistakes recently. His comment about ICE agents being clowns, being in law enforcement, I think was a huge mistake. But again, I'm not going to defend Tom McDermott. I'm not going to be his spokesperson. He can do that himself. What my point is that I think he's more likely to go into Congress and do what he believes is the thing that his local constituents want than some other people. I think the problem with Frank Mervan is a really nice guy personally. He is. His entire family, very nice people. And I think that Mervan, unfortunately, has found himself in a predicament where he's having to do the bidding of the National Democratic Party over and above the views of his own constituents. And I think that's been a problem for him. I just do. Again, I don't dislike the guy. I like the guy. I'm trying, if anything, I keep on trying to point out to him that you need to buck the party influences and represent Northwest Indiana, because those are the only people that count. When you get elected to office, if you run for Congress, if you run for any position, your job is to represent the people that elected you and the people that didn't elect you. You have to represent the people that you represent. And unfortunately, some of his views, I don't think that Northwest Indiana is any different than the rest of the United States when it comes to men and women's sports. I don't think that Northwest Indiana is any different than any place else in the United States, that when a kid with cancer is being cheered, that you're going to stand up and cheer for him. To me, those are things that are not negotiable. And I think Frank has a lot of explaining to do. And unfortunately, the time is running out. And if he doesn't do it soon, I think he's going to find himself in a real predicament. I think that there are a lot of voters in Northwest Indiana who are questioning where Mervan is at. He says he's bipartisan, but his votes show otherwise. And I just think that at the end of the day, he has got to do some real introspection and look at where he stands with voters in Northwest Indiana. And don't drink the Kool-Aid, and don't believe that the 40 or 50 people that basically post on anything and everything that he puts on Facebook, that those are his constituents. Because those 40 or 50 people, I can name them off. I know them. And some of those people are just political hacks that hang around him and, oh, you're doing great, you're doing great. You need to look at everybody else. You need to look where everybody else is standing.
Tom, Mervan might be a nice guy. The world is filled with nice guys. We don't need nice guys anymore. We need men that will stand up for something. And with that mealy-mouthed string for a backbone, your first clue was when he said, I don't want to call them illegals. They're undocumented. That's number one. Not standing for the kid is number two. Men and women's sports is number three. The list goes on and on. Get rid of Frank Mervan that takes care of Frank Mervan only instead of doing what's right. But
hey, can I ask you a quick aside? You're a smart guy, so you have a lot of answers. Tell me why I have a bottle of water, just a regular bottle of water, and every time I take a drink from it, I have a tendency to shake it first. Why? It's water. Why am I shaking the water bottle?
Because there's sediments in the bottle of that when they manufactured it.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know. I'm listening to you, but I went to take a drink of water since you were talking, and it dawned on me that every time I grab this water bottle, I flip it over like there's nothing in it. It's just water. There's no flavor. Oh, well. Look, you have some very valid points. And again, let me ask you this. If Frank Mervan were to pivot on some of those key issues, would that be enough for him to regain your confidence?
No, because it goes back to exactly what you said about your friend McDermott. You think about what you're going to say and do before you put those things into action. That way you don't have to retract statements. That way you don't have to look back on your acts and go, hey, you know what, I apologize. Tom, we all make mistakes. But in matters this big, you think about what you're going to do and say before you do them. And both McDermott and Mervan don't have the common sense to do that. Mervan
so who would you like to see run? Who would you like to see run?
I want to know more about the female that you've just mentioned. Include the spelling of her name, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull it up. Her name is, I'm looking for the spelling right now. She is out of Porter County. She's a county commissioner, and the name is spelled Regnitz, Barb Regnitz. And people, again, I found out about it yesterday when I saw that Jennifer Ruth Green was running. I called a friend of mine with the Lake County Republican Party and said, I see Jennifer Ruth Green is running again. And he said, yeah, but you're missing the bigger story. And I said, really? What's the bigger story? And he said, Tom, Barb Regnitz is running. And I said, who's she? And he said, and he told me about her. And he said, Tom, we really feel that she'd be a great candidate. And I just pulled her up in social media and news accounts, and she seems to be very popular. And his point is, she's popular in Porter County. She's popular in LaPorte County. A lot of Republicans in Lake County know her. And when the general public gets to know her, she's going to be a very formidable candidate. So we'll have to see. Hey, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. 845-1100 is the number. We've got more callers, so let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the air.
As far as being able to vote for Frank if he changed his ways and changed his tune, in full disclosure, I grew up with Frank, grew up in the same neighborhood in Hessville with Frank, went to school with Frank, partied with Frank. I'm a card-holding United Steelworker. I probably voted for Frank the first time. I consider Frank a friend. I would never vote for Frank again. Under no circumstance would I vote for Frank again. As far as your position on if he didn't have the support of the National Democratic Party, if he'd be electable here in the 1st District, he may be. Frank doesn't have the balls to take the chance, though. He needs the money. He needs the support because he needs the longevity in his mind. And without it, he runs the risk of getting beat. Might be a slim chance here in the 1st District, but he still runs the risk of getting beat.
You know, it's interesting because you know him quite well. As you said, you grew up with him, grew up in the same neighborhood, so you know him very well. And I'm really surprised because I know him like you. And I'm surprised that he basically has found himself in this situation with the National Democratic Party. I mean, think about it for a minute.
He sold the soul.
Right, but think about it for a minute. Let's say that was you. Let's say you were the congressman, and they gave you all this money to bail you out. Okay, and that was 4 years ago, by the way. The bailout was 4 years ago. It wasn't 2 years ago. It was 4 years ago. At what point does your loyalty wane, and do you say, you know what? They can't do anything to me. I mean, let's be honest with each other. The Democrats are not going to put anybody up against Frank Mervan, right? They're not. So why do you care if you're Frank Mervan what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and AOC and Bernie Sanders and you know that collection of characters that are running the Democratic Party? Why do you care? Why not say, hey, you know what? I did your bidding and now I'm doing what I want to do.
Let's look at Frank's portfolio today compared to when he came into office, and that'll answer your question. As far as Tom McDermott goes, again, it sounds like you're carrying his water, Tom.
I'm not meaning to.
He made it perfectly clear what his position was when he ran. He was going, and the exact quote was, I'm going to be a great foot soldier for Nancy Pelosi. He made that perfectly clear on these WJOB airwaves. So he did, and he's also told me that was one of the biggest mistakes that he could have said. But he was being honest. And that's he would be in the same position that Frank's in right now. Once he would have gotten in, he would have followed the same path as Frank. And
look, the only thing that I'm saying is what he said when he was on with me back in, I think, March, when
you could retract. You could retract as much as you want. The fact of the matter is he spoke. Go ahead.
I'm just pointing out that look, when it came to the little boy with cancer, if you remember, McDermott came on with me and we talked about it, and I said, what do you think about it? And he said, look, if I had been a congressman, I would have been up on my feet clapping. And I made the comment, and I said, no, I think I know you well enough. You'd probably been on the table. And he said, yeah, you're damn right. I would have been on the table with my hands over my head, clapping for that kid. And I know how he is when it comes to kids with cancer. That's my point. So I'll defend him on where he'd stand on kids for cancer. I'm not going to defend Tom McDermott on anything else, but I will say that I think that he would have. I don't care if he was Nancy Pelosi's personal aide. When it came to a kid for cancer, Tom McDermott would have stood up. That's my whole point. That's the only thing that I'll defend him on.
One final point about as it relates to the government shutdown.
Yes.
About two and a half weeks ago, President Trump declared that he was going to try to find some extra funds to make payment on military and law enforcement, I believe. That was 2.5 weeks ago.
Right.
2 weeks ago, the owner of the radio station, Didlo, came on and said, Frank Mervan is working on a plan to get some money for the military and law enforcement. So this just goes to show how the media tries to manipulate stories and twist it to look in their favor. So with that being said, clearly this is going to be your last show on WJOB because you're going in so deep on Frank Mervan.
No.
Are you going to be on WLPH at some point when Didlo fires you for going in so deep on Mervan today?
No, I don't think he's going to do that. But I will say this: where Jed was coming from was Mervan posted something, and I think Jed was reading the post where Mervan said he was going to work to try and find money for law enforcement and for the military, and so that's what he read that post. Look, again,
after Trump had already announced something was in the works.
Yeah, and let's put it this way: at the end of the day, we have the biggest train wreck in the history of mankind over this issue of the continuing resolution. Okay,
how has it affected you from day to day?
Has it affected me? It hasn't. It hasn't affected me, but it does affect an awful lot of people.
It hasn't affected me either. That's kind of weird.
But it's affected a lot of people, and it is affecting a lot of people. And there are a lot of good government employees. There are a lot of individuals who, the air traffic controllers, for example, TSA agents. There's plenty of people that are going without a paycheck right now. And I think the first thing that should happen is they ought to pass a law that says that if there is an impasse on the budget, the first people who lose their paychecks are members of Congress, Senate and House members, Democrat and Republicans. They should not be getting their pay while we're at this impasse. And to me, that's absolutely wrong. Take the money from the people who caused the problem. So does Chuck Schumer care? Because he doesn't. He's still getting his paycheck. He's getting his check, and Nancy Pelosi's getting her check, although she probably could care less because her husband's the smartest investor in history. But I mean, the first thing that should happen is they should take away the pay of Congress during a budget impasse. Hey, with that, we're going to move on.
Right on. Okay, I'll let you go. See you.
All right, take care. 845-1100, got another caller. We'll take that caller, and then we'll probably go to a break. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great. You have the most efficient show on WJOB, and I really want to commend your producer. It's really efficient, really to the point, no unnecessary comments involved, very efficient. Even when you were in Florida, I'll tell you the truth, the Florida programming is just as good, if not better, than when people are in studio, and that's an honest-to-God opinion to that fact. But
well, Lynette is great. Lynette, let's stop and give Lynette some very deserved credit. She does a great job.
Thank you so much.
She really
Appreciate that.
very, very good job and holds things together. So I appreciate your comments, and I think she does too. Go ahead.
And sir, I agree with you on this subject here, but I do appreciate the critical thinking this morning because we've lost that. And it's proven even in high schools where children today, and I'm not calling your callers children, but in general, they've lost the ability to have critical thinking. There's a lot of emotion involved in their thinking. It's one of the reasons that I have a problem with a lot of media today is a lot of the emotional talk. People say that's good radio. Well, some people say Jerry Springer was good. It's a good food fight. You're arguing, you're getting mad at each other, but you didn't accomplish a lick of anything. But I appreciate.
Can I just interrupt you for a second? There was one show that I always wanted to sneak into. I wanted to wear a disguise or sit way back in the audience where they didn't show me, but I always wanted to go to a Jerry Springer show when he was in Chicago, and I never did.
Mm-hmm. I actually have a niece that actually did attend one of the shows. But, I appreciate the fact that the one gentleman earlier in the morning brought up the voting record. Because so many people will say this candidate this is really the conservative Democrat, this is the liberal Democrat, this is the conservative Republican. But they never look at the voting record. The voting record is what counts. I heard it on and in fairness, a lot of Republicans, they blame Mayor Tom, they blame our Congressman Frank, but a lot of local Republicans, they didn't pay attention to voting records either when they crossed the aisle and they got the candidate. Now, these are Republicans who got this candidate in office. I hope those Republicans, because the one gentleman's good at picking up a one sentence that Mayor Tom might have said, and he disagrees with it, and I disagree with the statement too, but then he'll hold him accountable for the rest of his life based on one statement that is totally incorrect. The man said it was a mistake. He's wrong, and I'll say it again. Mayor Tom, despite with all the rhetoric on this radio, I do believe he is a pro-law enforcement mayor from the city of Hammond, despite the fact that he was smoking weed in a state whereby it was legal. Case in point, I'm a baby boomer just like you. You probably went to, maybe you did, when we were underage and we couldn't drink, and when Wisconsin had a lower alcohol level to be legal, I did it. Yeah, I did it. So therefore, did I break
Come on,
the
you used to
law
go.
in
You used to go to Illinois. You used to go to Illinois because it was 19.
Correct. In Illinois, correct. So, am I a criminal in Indiana? See, this is the problem, Tom, where I have with people who just, it's like they want to fight over this one thing that they may disagree with on a candidate. You see what I'm saying? And this is why this is why I have a lot of problem with a lot of, I'll tell the truth, no offense to Chuck, a lot of you libertarians. You have great ideas, great thoughts, you're always intellectual, but you never get elected to nothing. And the local Republicans, they're starting to annoy me because they're doing the same thing. They do the same thing. They preach good, but they win nothing.
Well, let me ask you a question. You just hit on one of the reasons why I think it's so hard to get good people to run for office. Okay. So, we both complimented Lynette this morning. All right. She's young. In a few years, do you think that you could actually say to Lynette, hey, Lynette, you ought to run for office?
No.
Because the problem is that if she says one wrong thing, if she does one wrong thing, people will hold it against her for the rest of her life. And you're right about that. you have politicians, you have elected officials in Northwest Indiana, and I know 90+% of them, okay? And some of them I know really, really well. And a lot of them are disillusioned because anything and everything they do, they get blamed, all right? They get blamed for it no matter what the case is. People say things. People attack them. They attack them personally. They're human beings. They do make mistakes, okay?
Right.
And the thing is that, you know what? My point always is, well, if you think you can do so much better, then you run, okay? And you get elected. And right away it's like, well, no, nobody's going to elect me. Well, then, you know what? Maybe loosen up a little bit, lighten up on some of these people because they do make mistakes. Politicians and especially elected officials are prone to make mistakes just like everybody else. And you know what? I agree with you. You have to forgive. You have to forgive what people do.
I look at the pattern. It's you know what I'm saying, Tom? I mean, if you lie to me and you lie to me and you lie, you know, at some point I'm gonna. Hey, this isn't a good guy or good gal. I got it.
Right.
But my point is, you can't even come on these airways and say, look, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. But it's my opinion when Frank Mervan was the North Township trustee, he did an excellent job. That does not mean I support him for the rest of his life in every political endeavor. As a matter of fact, I said at the time, you local Democrats, I go by the Ronald Reagan philosophy. You select and you support the most conservative Republican that can get elected. It was my question at the time to the Republicans. If you're gonna switch sides and go for the Democrat, why did you not at least go for the most conservative Democrat if you already crossed the line? And they won't answer that question. So my point is, you guys did not only today you're feeling you selected the wrong candidate. My question is, initially, did you select the most conservative Democrat as a Democrat? And if you were honest with yourself, you would say no. So all this back and forth, and you're right, Mayor Tom's not ever. Why would the party, if they already know I got a yes man, like you stated, why would I want to switch? That's a yes vote, man. It's ridiculous.
They're not gonna upset the apple cart. It's just not gonna happen. Hey, thanks so much for calling. We've got other callers holding. Folks, stay on hold. We're gonna be right back. We're gonna take a quick commercial break. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Again, just stay on hold. We'll be right back.
If you're thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or your business has plans to break ground on a new project in 2024, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your source for the region's best electricians. With IBEW, Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringindiana.org today and ensure your project is in the hands of skilled professionals.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
At Strachan Van Til, we believe grocery shopping should be simple. Now, shopping is easier than ever with our new and improved website. Find what you need fast. Browse your favorite products, add them to your cart, and check out in just a few quick steps. Choose between convenient in-store pickup or let us handle the heavy lifting. From our shelves to your doorstep, skip the lines, shop your way, and spend more time on what matters most. With our rewards program, enjoy incredible savings and personalized offers every time you shop. Shop online now at strachanvantil.com or download our app today.
All right, folks, we're back, and it is 7:30, and you're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. And tell you what, why don't we go to the phone lines right away? Because a couple of these people have been holding for a long time, and then we'll do traffic and weather at some point in this segment. So, good morning, you're on the air.
Hello, Tom. I got Safety Steve.
Steve, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I got to tell you what, today is a real interesting program. I think it's one of your best. You're spot on with everything, and I really enjoy listening to it. And you know what? One thing I do really appreciate is the fact that, you know, you tell it the way it is, and I think that is great. And I got to kudos to the caller that called in a couple of times talking about Tom McDermott, because, you know, you're right. Tom and I didn't agree on a lot of things, but I tell you one thing. The guy stands up for his people, stands up for his city. And he's a human being, and he's going to make mistakes. But you know what? Don't hold that against him. You know what? And I'm a Republican, and I tell you what, I stand behind him.
But you know what, Steve? You of course, you served the citizens of Hammond in the fire department for many years. People have known you, of course. You know your moniker, Safety Steve. But the fact is that even when you were involved with the fire department, there were criticisms made against you and the fire department about anything and everything. You show up, a building's on fire, you guys put it out, people say, well, you didn't do it fast enough. Okay. You have people that stand on the sidewalk, in this day and age, they tell you, well, you should have used the aerial. But you and I both know when you use an aerial, like on a home fire, you're usually basically flooding the inside of the home. It's going to collapse. You're going to ruin the home. People will stand there and at an accident scene, they'll tell you didn't do enough. You did too much. You did this, you did that. You blocked traffic. People this day and age are experts and Monday morning quarterbacks on everything. And that's what really drives me crazy is, you know, again, I've known you for years. You know, we lived just a few blocks apart back when you were living in Robertsdale and knew each other well. And let's face it, people were critical. And that was years ago. Now it's even worse, right? I mean, people criticize everything. So why would anybody want to run for office?
You know, you're absolutely right. And it's hard to get a good person to run because of that fact, because a lot of, you know, the public can ruin you by just one thing that you say. But, you know, and I'll allude back to Tom. Tom has always, first of all, look at what he has done. His record speaks for him of what he has done for the citizens that he represents. I really personally think that if he'd have got to run for Congress, I really think there have been more of. I don't really believe he'd have been a Nancy Pelosi follower. I think that's something that he said and he regretted saying, but he apologized for it. I think he'd be a great politician because A, he's got a background in law. Two, he's a regular human being. He's not one of these fake politicians. Look at his record. Look what he has done. I've come to know Tom, and we may disagree on a lot of things, but you know what? I would tell you this. Despite of everything that has ever happened to me with, when I was in the ranks of the fire department, he's always been an honest man to me. Always been an honest man, and I'll stand behind him for that.
Yeah, and again, without going into detail, you guys had some disagreements. Okay, you did, and yet, here you are. You're saying, that you still respect him for at least having the opinion. Okay, at least being able to say, "Hey, I made a mistake." Again, the problem this day and age is that we expect perfection from politicians, from elected officials. And we are so critical that when they make mistakes, we don't allow them to make amends. Now, in the case of Mervan, I've asked the question this morning. Okay, there are a lot of things people don't like about him. My question is it too late for him to make amends with the voters of Northwest Indiana? And that remains to be seen. We'll find out next year. But, he's made some mistakes, and the question is, can people look the other way if he changes his views? I mean, obviously, if he doesn't change his views, well, there's the answer, but it's still, the election's still a year away. So people do change. We'll see. Hey, by the way,
look at Featherman. Look what he did. I mean, there's a stand. Nobody likes that guy, and he's taking a stand. And could Frank do this? I don't know, but you know what? And again, it may be time for change. Only we'll know soon.
Well, you brought up a great brought up a great example, Steve. I mean, John Fetterman was hated by the Republicans. They painted him as this slob who nobody liked, nobody wanted, everybody hated him. And then all of a sudden, he's the guy that says, you know what? I'm elected by the residents of my state, and I'm going to represent them, and I'm not going to represent my party. And then all of a sudden, the Democrats hate him because he's bucking the party. So there's a guy who's doing the right things. He's saying the right things. He's voting the right way, and he's getting chastised, by one group or the other. So he can't make everybody happy. That's for sure. Hey, Steve, thanks so much for calling. It's always great to hear from you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. You take care.
Take care. 845-1100 is the number. We've got another caller, so we'll go right to the caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
This is Ron Matlock. I guess you recognize the voice, and I very seldom called. But let's agree to disagree.
Okay, about what? What are we going to agree to disagree on?
Okay. Let me just finish then, please.
Sure.
Because basically, it seems to me like there's a beat up on Frank Mervan today. Of all the callers, now, this is my opinion now, because I normally don't call because I don't want to be cut off. I did that once before.
Well, I never cut you off. I never cut you off.
You forgot. Okay. We won't go there though. You forgot. Okay. And but I think sometimes people are seeing an issue around it. I think you said that, but because he didn't stand. Well, I agree that he should have stood, but you never understood how so many of the great things that he does, and some of these people who call in will never vote for him anyway. I never would call during election time because I don't want everybody who hate Ron Matlock, I don't want them to take it out on Frank Mervan. And so I just stay silent and let the people make. Frank Mervan has been the best congressman I believe we've ever had. Single issue, if you if you said that with the situation, and I agree with you, he should have stood. But hey, there's so many things goes on in Washington, and we don't know what's going on in Washington. And somebody else may have turned him off on that situation, and because he was there during the insurrection, that he was there during the insurrection, when he had to basically didn't know if he was going to come out alive. and this was done by
Ron.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Let me just interrupt you for a second. Okay, so my point this morning has been, I'm raising the very question that I think you're raising, which is, if he admits that he's made some mistakes and he pivots on a few issues, would people be willing to support him? That's the whole point of the show this morning. So I think you and I are saying the same thing.
Yeah, and I agree. If he apologizes, and you will have to agree to this, they will never vote for him anyway, because they will find other issues. Now, Frank Mervan was against this U.S. Steel thing. He was against that Nippon buying. Am I right or wrong? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, he was against it. You're right. Yes.
He was against it. But the president of the United States was against it as a candidate, right? Yes. Donald Trump. Go ahead. They both of them would say it's a national issue, right? And we would not do that. The first thing that Donald Trump does when he get on, because I do know that I believe my mayor went to Washington, and he changed his name over. And my understanding that he may have some interest in this deal. And see, I'm just saying right now, there is, when we talk about there is no kings. I love America. I served in this war. I think you told me you met me a long time on as a precinct committeeman. We met each other.
Sure. You and I both knew Ted Coopwood. Remember Ted Coopwood?
Yeah. And just give me a few minutes, because I don't call it also. Please allow me a little time. I served as the Calumet Township trustee board. I was a board member for 2 terms. Never was defeated there. I met Frank Mervan as a board member also. He was just a board member. He was a good thing. I mean, he got so many things for him that's good. I just single something that now they're saying that Frank Mervan ought to go. Why has he got government shut down? Well, I think Frank wants the government. What do you think about Medicare and Medicaid? These are things that if Frank were to go in, they need the Democrats to come in and side with that. But it's not in the best interest for this country, for Medicare and Medicaid. I talked to my doctor. I'm trying to tell you on something facts. I study government. I know government, how it works well. And it's a give and take. Right now, the Speaker of the House takes his orders. Now, you have to agree with this now. He takes his orders from Donald Trump. That's what we did.
First off, Ron, when you say I have to agree, I don't have to agree.
Well,
I have my own opinion on everything.
I'm sorry, you don't have to agree, and I don't have to agree with you. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But
I want to keep this decent.
So wait a minute. So you brought up an issue. Okay. But the issue right now that the Democrats are bringing up really has very little to do with Medicare and Medicaid as it has to do with the Affordable Care Act. And the Affordable Care Act, hold on. The Affordable Care Act, Affordable Care Act, which people call Obamacare, is something that I know quite well.
They renamed it.
It's
the same thing.
No, they always nicknamed it. They nicknamed it. It was never renamed. It's always been the Affordable Care Act. People just called it Obamacare. Okay, because Obama, that was his centerpiece. The fact is that there are problems with Obamacare. There are. And I agree, and I think Democrats and Republicans agree that there are some fixes that need to be made. What I disagree with right now is that the Democrats are saying, well, we're not going to pass a continuing resolution until we get our way on the fixes that we want to the Affordable Care Act. And I disagree with that approach. I think that the better approach is to pass a clean resolution, a continuing resolution, and immediately command or demand the debate on the Affordable Care Act. I know the Affordable Care Act very well. I've even testified in court, as a number of listeners to the station know. I've actually been in court on the Affordable Care Act. I know the act quite well, and there are some shortcomings of that act that need to be fixed. Everybody agrees. How they're going to fix it is the question. But I don't think pulling the Affordable Care Act into the continuing resolution for government is a fair trade-off. I think that the Affordable Care Act needs to be debated, and it needs to be discussed, and it needs to be discussed quickly. I totally agree with the Democrats on that, but I disagree with the fact that they're trying to link the Affordable Care Act revisions to the continuing resolution. That's where there's a mistake.
Okay. Now. Let me just say this. Donald Trump, his first 4 years in office, he's gonna take care of that Obamacare. They renamed it. They say what? They asked one guy, what do you think about affordable health care? Oh, I like it. What about Obamacare? I don't like it. Same thing. Yeah. But they
I
had
agree.
an opportunity.
Look, I agree. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who don't understand.
That's right. Thank you.
What the Affordable Care Act does and what it doesn't do. Okay,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of myth. There's a lot of myth. There's a lot of myth and error in what it covers, Ron. There's a lot of myth and a lot of error.
But when you rename that Obamacare, that turns a lot of people against because they didn't like Obama.
Ron, they called it Obamacare. It was first nicknamed Obamacare, basically by ABC News back in 2009. It was ABC News that came out with the name Obamacare, and it's been called that ever since. And I agree with you. I think there's some bias with people who support the Affordable Care Act, but as soon as Obama's name comes up, they're opposed to it. I agree. I think it's the same. I think it's the same as some of the issues, some of the things that Trump has done. As soon as Trump's name, they don't like it. But if Trump's name is not kept on it, they like it. I agree.
There you go. Now, right now, there's 7 million people at No King's Day. And basically what they're saying, they say, oh, he was just joking when he was. I say he wasn't joking. If Donald Trump said something, he basically.
Ron, that's a waste. That's a wasted discussion. He did joke. And the 7 million people, listen, there are 7 million people. 7 million people, a lot of them protesting a lot of things that had nothing to do with anything. When I look at some of the people that were out there, they were protesting things that really had nothing to do with Donald Trump. They had a lot of people that were, but there's always going to be opposition in this country. Yeah. Remember, there was opposition. There was healthy opposition to FDR in 1940. Yeah. Okay, there was opposition to FDR in 1944, and we were in the middle of World War II in 1944. So there's always going to be opposition to any president. I get that.
Now, let me ask you one last thing here, and then because I've followed this all along, and I think I know how government works. I mean, I ain't the smartest guy, but I'm not the dumbest guy as far as politics is concerned. Right now, there's been 15 boats in the water, and Donald Trump said they had drugs on them. How does he know? Yep. And then he goes out and say, we're gonna kill up some people.
Hey, Ron, I'll tell you what, Ron, I'm not going to defend the drug cartels. Those boats have been known as drug runners for years. Okay. And by the way, hold on. By the way, one of the people who basically made the biggest issue about the drug boat runners during his administration was Barack Obama. And Barack Obama had threatened that we needed to possibly consider some military action because of those drug boats. So don't go there because Barack Obama said the same thing. George W. Bush said the same thing. Okay. Biden didn't say anything because Biden was Biden, but that issue is being politicized. Those people are sending fentanyl and drugs here that are killing millions of Americans, and you need to interdict the drug trade. You do.
I'm agreeing with you there, but if every boat was out there, could there have been some people who were fishermen? Could there be some people trying to get to America?
Not in those boats, and the intelligence is pretty good on those.
I don't have no evidence, and I don't think nobody else has. Just to say they all had drugs on them. I
think the evidence is pretty strong that they had drugs, Ron. Nobody has come forward and said that those were innocent people. They haven't. Yeah. They have not. So, hey, thanks so much for calling. I appreciate it. Thank you. 845-1100 is the number. We've got more callers, so let's go to the next caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Tom. Great
Good morning.
Show.
Thank you.
FYI, I sent you a message, but I guess Saturday, Moran is supposed to be at the Lake County Government Auditorium between 1 and 2, and I guess it takes an hour and a half to get to Calumet College. He'll be there from 3:30 to 4:30, It's supposed to be a community conversation, but I get, it's probably going to be a one-way conversation about all his accolades that he's done for us. Also, we need some fresh new blood in office. How about Tom Jr. running for office, and you could be chief of staff, and he has lawyers that can back him up. And also, your presence at St. John's is greatly missed.
Well, I'll tell you what. I will be back next Sunday. It's my regular role with Rick Mossels and John Coleman and Tom as an usher, and St. John, of course, my family has ties that go well over 100 years to St. John the Baptist. So that's my parish, and I love being there. And of course, grew up there and attended St. John the Baptist Catholic School. And some of my most fond memories were of Father Kostick and Father Homko, and of course, my very good close friend, Father John Calicky. And so that's an area that's very important to me. But again, Mervan is going to have some public forums, and as you said, one is at the Lake County Government Complex, the other one is Calumet College, and I'd encourage people to go out and hear what he has to say. But go ahead.
It's only for 1 hour. I mean, he works for us. We pay his salary as a taxpayer and all that. A normal person has to work 8 hours. Why can't he give us a couple hours? And it's going to be a one-way conversation. It's all about him.
You know what? All of those kinds of forums end up that way. I mean, I don't care where you're at, what forum you go to. It can be in Hammond, Whiting, East Chicago, Munster, Highland, Cherville, St. John. Public forums these days are generally an opportunity for people to pontificate on what they did and why they should be reelected, instead of giving people the opportunity to ask questions. Here's something that really bothers me, and I understand why, and I've been on plenty of boards and commissions over the years, but this idea that we now limit people to 3 minutes at a city council meeting or at a town council meeting, and that's pretty universal now. You get 3 minutes, okay? Those politicians sit up there and talk for hours, and then you or I get 3 minutes to address that council or that board. And I think 3 minutes is a little too short. I don't limit people to 3 minutes on this radio station. Okay, Ron just called, and I've known Ron for many years. And I wish if Ron were still on, I think he'd agree with me that, it takes more than 3 minutes sometime for people to put their thoughts together. Ron's been on boards and commissions like I have. And so I think you have a fair point. If people want to go and speak, it should be more than an hour, and they should be able to speak for more than 3 minutes. Because, some people, 3 minutes is just where they're getting to their point. Do you have to limit them? Yes. You don't want to have one person there for an hour. So maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 7 minutes. I just dislike this idea that we say, okay, you get 3 minutes and you get to speak at the end of the meeting instead of at the beginning of the meeting. I mean, you should be able to speak at the beginning of a meeting, shouldn't you? To give your views before they vote, before they act. I disagree with that.
I wish he would come on your show, because I know you would take questions from callers and all that, because when he comes on with Jed or anybody else, it's just a one-way thing about him.
I've asked him. I spoke to him personally. I've spoken to his staff several times, and the invitation is still open. If he really wants to reach a lot of people, he ought to come on my show. And he ought to be prepared to take phone calls. If you're coming on my show, you need to be prepared to take phone calls. If you can't take phone calls and you can't answer those questions, then it's not a good fit. And anytime I've had guests, I always say, even a guy like John Daugherty, John comes on once a month with me. He'll be on next week. And if you have a question, John's available to answer that question. He takes those calls. Everybody needs to take calls when you come on talk radio. To have you come on and just talk for 30 minutes and leave isn't fair to the callers. It isn't fair to the listeners. And so those are my rules. And if Frank Mervan wants to come on, Frank knows how to get a hold of me. Trust me, he's got my cell. I've got his cell. So if he wants to get a hold of me, he can call me right now on my cell. And, he can book a time, and I'll be glad to have him. But he's got to take calls.
You have to have the number one show on WJOB. You get the most callers. The other shows, they get one or two calls, or it's the same people, but your show's got to be the number one rated show on WJOB, and thank you very much. Hang up and listen to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the kind words. 845-1100 is a number. Have we gotten to the point where we got to the point where we're taking a break one way or the other. So if you're on hold on. We'll be right back. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM, and we'll be right back after these commercial messages.
If you're thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or your business has plans to break ground on a new project in 2024, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your source for the region's best electricians. With IBEW, Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringIndiana.org today and ensure your project is in the hands of skilled professionals.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
At Strachan Van Til, we believe grocery shopping should be simple. Now, shopping is easier than ever with our new and improved website. Find what you need fast. Browse your favorite products, add them to your cart, and check out in just a few quick steps. Choose between convenient in-store pickup or let us handle the heavy lifting. From our shelves to your doorstep, skip the lines, shop your way, and spend more time on what matters most. With our rewards program, enjoy incredible savings and personalized offers every time you shop. Shop online now at strachanvantil.com or download our app today.
All right, folks, we're back, and we're coming up just on 8 o'clock in the Calumet region. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM. And before we go back to the callers, let's do traffic and weather. And I do want to do a quick shout out to Ron Matlock. Ron, next week I want to focus on what I think is one of the more forgotten holidays, and I believe you served in the military, and I want people next week to call in who served in the military, Walt and all the others, and people who had family that served in the military, and we want to pay some tribute to our veterans, because Veterans Day is November 11th, and it's one of the most important holidays in this country, and yet it's overlooked on a regular basis. So I want to cover Veterans Day next week. 845-1100, but before we go any further, let's do traffic. There is a slowdown on eastbound 8094 just past I-65, and it looks like it's spreading. So be careful if you're eastbound past I-65 on 8094, going across the line into Illinois. The Dan Ryan is now a pretty solid backup. It's a parking lot, actually, from south of the Skyway all the way into the Circle. The Stevenson, the Eisenhower, and the Kennedy don't look too great either. And 294 seems to have some issues as well, especially out near Willow Springs. That area is kind of slowing down. So from Palos Hills, really past to Western Springs now. So be careful out there on traffic, and let's go right to Lynette. The complimented Lynette doing the weather.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 46 degrees with highs of 57 and lows of 46. Should be windy today with intervals of clouds and sunshine. And later tonight should be partly cloudy and breezy. And then tomorrow and Thursday we'll be having highs of 56 and lows of 42. Should be breezy with times of clouds and sun. And then Friday we'll be having highs of 55 and lows of 39 with times of clouds and sun. And should be chilly for trick-or-treating.
All right, and we've got an hour left of this broadcast, so 845-1100, I think we've got callers holding, so we'll go to the callers, and we've been talking about a lot of things this morning, and some of the things that I wanted to talk about we never get to, so that's okay. 845-1100, good morning, you're on the air.
Oh, great show this morning. So I'm glad you're on because I'm not an expert on Obamacare, so I might actually learn something from you today. So if I'm getting it, just let me know if I got this right. So the Democrats want part of this $1.5 trillion that they're asking for. They want that to subsidize the Obamacare premiums so they don't go through the roof, right?
Yeah, look, here, the Affordable Care Act, there are so many problems with it, and there are fixes that have to be made. And even Barack Obama has said there are fixes. I mean, it got passed in 2009. We're in 2025. We're still running basically essentially with the same law, largely because the Democrats are afraid the Republicans want to gut it, and the Republicans are afraid that the Democrats want to overload it. So neither party has been able to come together to adjust what actually, in concept, makes sense, but in reality has a lot of pitfalls, and there are a lot of problems with that act. And one of the biggest ones is that it still prohibits insurance companies from selling policies over state lines, and that's a real problem in this country. And we can do a whole show on it, but that keeps the cost of many policies inflated. And so right now it's a subsidy that's given. There's easier ways to give better insurance than what exists. And again, I don't want to call it Obamacare. As I pointed out to Ron, it was ABC News who first coined the phrase Obamacare back when it was being considered. But the Affordable Care Act benefits as many Republicans as it does Democrats. There are a lot of people that depend on it. And there are some great benefits, but there are some real mistakes and some real errors that have occurred over the last 15 years, and it has to be fixed.
Okay, so at the end of the day, they need to use the taxpayers' money to subsidize this thing so these premiums don't go crazy on people. Am I correct?
In the current state, that's correct. And part of the fix has to be to eliminate the need for those subsidies.
Okay, and here's where my issue is. So I pay for my health care every month, and now you need my tax dollars to pay for these to subsidize somebody else's health care for their premiums.
In its current form, you're correct. Should that be one of the fixes? And that's where look here, the idea, the concept, you're right. It is. It's a bunch of bull. Look, the concept.
Just be Canada.
Well, the concept, the idea is that we were going to basically, the Affordable Care Act, we were going to buy large blocks of health insurance and make it available for people to buy. And, it's like anything else, the economy of scale, right? If you buy 10 trucks, you're going to pay one amount. If you buy 100 trucks, you're going to pay a lower amount per truck because you're buying more trucks. So the idea was with the Affordable Care Act is we were going to be buying millions of policies, so small businesses and individuals could go out and get affordable health care coverage because they would be part of this big pool. But it never materialized that way. Instead, it became a subsidy that basically it almost defeats the purpose of the Affordable Care Act the way it's currently structured. And again, I would need a couple hours to go into all the details and all the problems that exist with the act. I just got a call recently from somebody who was talking to me in a business conversation about the Affordable Care Act, and I was trying to explain that once again, the concept makes sense, but the reality is that we don't go out and buy a million health insurance policies so that the price is lower. What we're doing is we're subsidizing a million policies, and there lies the problem.
I want the taxpayers to fund my health care.
Well,
that's what I want.
Well, here you bring up another point. Okay, is it fair? Is it fair that you have to pay for your health insurance, but other people are being subsidized through the tax rolls? And
Through my tax
again,
money.
it's look, there's so many problems. They got some things right. The one thing that if you say to me, well, is the Affordable Care Act completely corrupt and wrong? I would tell you no. They got some things right. The provision that basically says that everybody should get an annual physical and that annual physical should be covered by insurance. I think that's a great part of the act. And I'll tell you why. Because any doctor I've ever talked to has agreed that if you catch, if you have somebody come in for an annual physical instead of overloading the emergency rooms in this country, first off, they can go and they can do an examination, they can do blood tests, and they can catch things like cancer and heart disease in its infancy, which means people are going to live longer. The cost is going to be lower. It's lower to catch cancer in its infancy than to catch it at stage 3 and it's full blown and the person may not even live. So it makes sense to do those kinds of things. The provision on individuals getting to stay on their parents' health insurance, that actually made sense as well, because there were a lot of individuals who were graduating from college and being thrown off their parents' insurance, or they went into the workforce at age 18 and they were taking part-time work and they couldn't get full health insurance coverage. Some of those things made sense. If you look at the cost of health insurance and health care for someone Lynette's age, it's a whole lot cheaper than for someone my age. Okay.
Right.
So there were some good ideas within the Affordable Care Act, but there were some real mistakes, and the subsidy is one of the biggest mistakes. It doesn't create the free market and the market competition that was envisioned by Barack Obama, and he has said it himself. He has said it himself that that's where the fault lies. So both the Democrats and the Republicans say there's a problem, but nobody wants to talk about it. And now the Democrats are holding the federal government hostage with the continuing resolution because, and again, it's a much bigger debate and much bigger discussion. And we need to move on. We need to fund the government, continue funding the government, and then have this debate and have a sincere debate about how to best fix the Affordable Care Act. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. And hey, Tom, just to let you know, I usually like to go fishing in Southwest Florida about 2-3 times a year. Love it down there. And I've never went fishing with a dozen 55-gallon blue barrels on the boat.
Well, again, look, those drug smugglers, it has been a problem that was pointed out all the way back to George W. Bush. Bush pointed it out, Obama pointed it out, Trump pointed it out in his first administration. Drug smugglers, I'm not going to lose any sleep over drug smugglers getting killed by U.S. military forces for trying to run millions and millions of pounds of fentanyl here every year and killing tens of thousands of people. I have no problem. You are putting lives at risk, U.S. lives at risk. We need to do something. I think it sends a clear message to the drug cartels that we're not going to just let them walk all over us. I think that's a smart move. I think it's a smart move.
All right, have a good one, Tom.
All right. Thank you so much. 845-1100 is the number. And I think for the first time in 2 hours and 7 minutes, there's nobody waiting. But as soon as you call, we'll take your call. 845-1100. I do want to get to some other issues. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about Frank Mervan, but I found it interesting that one of the wealthiest people on earth, an individual who, a lot of people know who he is, Bill Gates, put out a guest commentary in the New York Times, I believe it was yesterday or over the weekend, was reported yesterday. And basically he's now saying that, maybe we need to rethink the focus that we have on climate change. I find that very interesting because the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation spent millions upon millions of dollars for years pushing this agenda, if you will, about climate change and how climate change was the biggest threat to life on Earth, that it was the number one issue that we had to focus on. And all of a sudden now Bill Gates is backing off on that and saying, well, there's other issues that we should consider. So that was something that I wanted to talk about this morning because to me, again, it kind of goes back to the conversation that I had with Ron with politicians. Politicians can make mistakes and say things and do we hold them accountable and we never forget the one thing that they say, which was wrong. But in the case of Bill Gates, Gates has repeatedly and even funded, this push towards the debate about climate change. And now he's saying, well, yeah, all these years we've kind of maybe made it too much of a focus. So I want to hear listeners and viewers 845-1100 about the issue of climate change, because to me it's quite remarkable that Gates is now changing his tune on that one. The other is there's been a pop-up vendor, and I don't understand this at all. There is a pop-up vendor that I guess has tacos or Mexican food. He's been all over the internet. He was located in Hammond. Hammond PD chased him out. He was located in East Chicago. East Chicago PD chased him out. He was located in Gary. Gary PD chased him out, evidently. And now he's in Munster. And he's probably going to get chased out of Munster. And I don't understand about pop-up vendors and why there's such a fascination with these vendors. Everybody and their brother is out on Facebook, for example, sharing, here's the location, okay? And look, I have nothing wrong with people trying to make a dollar, but pop-up vendors, the problem is that they're not paying any taxes. There's no health inspections. There's no there's no sales tax. There's none of those things that our communities basically rely on. If you open up a business, you have to get permits. You have to have a health permit. You have to have health inspections. You have to have all these things. And it's fine to say, this is a little guy and he's trying to make a dollar. That's true. But at the same time, do we not want to support our businesses that invest in our communities? And I mean, Lynette, have you heard about this pop-up vendor, the taco sales vendor that's been featured on Facebook so much lately?
I don't think I have.
I have no idea. I hear everybody says they're from somewhere out west and they came to the region and that the food is fantastic and it's wonderful. But as soon as the police show up, they get moved to a different location. And again, I know for a fact that they've been in Hammond, East Chicago, and Gary, and the police departments have shown up and said, you can't operate here because you don't have proper permits. You're not paying, taxes, all those things. And I find it a bit of a contradiction that people are actually getting upset because the police are making them move on, and all the police are doing is basically enforcing the law. We have a caller?
Yep, we have one caller.
Okay, well, we'll go to that caller. Good morning. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. How are you doing?
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is Bill from Griffith.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Fantastic, sir. Hey, I was just listening to you about the pop-up vendor, but the permit thing I think is going to be like the biggest thing, because don't you need a food permit?
Well, you're supposed to have you're supposed to have a health permit, right? I mean, look, I mean, I'm assuming that if, people that are standing in these lines, and I saw one post Monday night that said the line was over a block long when they were located in Hammond. And I think that's great. But you know what? Hammond has a number of Mexican restaurants that I frequent. And you know what? They pay taxes, they pay payroll, they have health permits, they do all kinds of things to keep their business up. They pay property taxes. And I find it difficult when people are out there saying, "Oh, this is just heavy-handed tactics by the police, and they should leave these guys alone." Well, what about El Taco Real, who has been in business since like 1977, pays taxes, has a payroll, puts money into the community, has all the correct permits. I mean, if you're going to a pop-up, you're not going to go over to his restaurant. So aren't you hurting those local businesses? I was very surprised by the hundreds and hundreds of people who posted and said, "Oh, this is wrong. Let these guys operate."
Yeah,
I don't know. What say you?
For the very first time, Paul Goddard had posted it on Facebook, and I honestly didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what this guy was selling until you go through the comments, and that's when they're telling you, "Yeah, this is what he's selling," and So, but I think it's just the thrill of doing something on the sly, for some people. But for this guy, whoever the taco guy is, yeah, I agree. He's probably just trying to make a buck.
Well, and look, somebody said, you read some of the comments, Bill. Somebody pointed out and said, "Well, why do they they go after the people that are selling flowers on street corners on Mother's Day?" Well, I can tell you, I knew a florist, in fact, who used to advertise on these very airwaves way back when Jed first bought the station, and they went out of business. And they were a regular advertiser. They were located in South Hammond, just off of. They were on 165th, I believe, just off of Calumet Avenue. And they went out of business largely because they depended on holidays like Mother's Day and Easter and Sweetest Day. And they couldn't compete with the vendors that were standing on street corners. And they told me that. They said, "Look, we're closing our doors because we can't compete." And they spent tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, the owner told me he spent over $100,000 in opening that business, and he had to close because he couldn't compete with these street vendors. Now, it sounds great. Let's support the street vendors. Let's let everybody do what they want to do. But then when you close a business that paid property taxes, that invested $100,000 in their building, that had a regular payroll of 3 or 4 people working for them, well, aren't you hurting your community in supporting those pop-up vendors? I think you are.
Oh, absolutely, because not only are you hurting the business, but you're hurting those who had the job, okay?
Yeah.
First, you're hurting the owner because that's his livelihood, and then he's employing people that's their livelihood, and it's just a domino effect. And then you close a business, you close a store, and how long is it going to sit empty? And then all of a sudden it's considered a blight, and they don't want to, nobody's taking care of it. And now they want to demolish it or something. I mean, I'm talking, years down the line, but people aren't opening up businesses in existing structures as easily as they used to.
Yeah, it's very costly. There's that investment. There's, again, as you pointed out, there's a payroll. There's all these people that depend on them. And it's the same debate that we've had, for example, in downtown Whiting. So being involved with the Whiting Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce over the years, there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, we should bring in food vendors, and we should, it should be every week. Downtown Whiting should be like Pierogi Fest. We can bring in, the food trucks." Okay. Well, at the same time, there's all these restaurants located in downtown Whiting and in Robertsdale, and those owners put a lot of money into the community to have an actual building, to have all the equipment, to have payroll and pay all the taxes that they pay, and then you're going to roll a couple of food trucks into the downtown area and decimate their business for the weekend. And people are like, well, yeah, why not? I mean, they have a right to make money too, but they're not paying for all those things. They're not supporting local high school football or supporting local organizations that these established businesses support. And it's just to me, it's wrong for people to go out there. Sure, if guy has great food, maybe encourage him. Maybe you encourage him and say, hey, why don't you open up a permanent restaurant here? But to argue that the police are being heavy-handed because they're closing down these pop-up vendors, I disagree with completely.
Who knows what kind of conditions are in that kitchen that's in the pop-up vendor? Now, I'm not saying that they're all dirty or anything, but without a health inspection, who knows? I mean, they're doing this on the fly. How fast are they actually cleaning the place?
I agree. I agree.
How sanitary is it? I've had food poisoning before from a restaurant, and it's not pleasant. You spend the night in the hospital, and it's not pleasant at all.
Look, I remember when some guys from Northwest Indiana went to Taste of Chicago, and they bought it was, I can't remember, I think it was a hummus dip, and they got food poisoning. And once again, food sanitation is extremely important, and it's got to be followed. And these pop-up places, the guy, where's he getting the water from? Is he getting it from a garden hose? I mean, he doesn't have a sink out there and a proper sanitation system. It's just scary.
Right.
Hey, thanks so much for the call.
Well, I wanted to ask you about another.
Sure.
I tried calling in yesterday, but I couldn't. But the two ladies that were on there yesterday, they were talking about how SNAP benefits are being canceled as of November 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said that, there's got to be a way that they can protest. There's got to be a way that they can protest. Well, I don't know if you've heard about it, Tom, but there's a lot of chatter online with reels and even YouTube videos of people saying that Walmart is about to get looted starting tomorrow, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. And then the other thing that kind of scares me with my wife is people are going to start watching people going from the grocery store with their groceries to their car, and they're going to rob them. Have you heard anything about this?
Well, so I saw some of the videos, and look, I think sometimes you get people who make videos just for the sake of shock. I saw the two where one is a woman, one's a man, who say, the woman says she's just going to go in and take whatever she wants from Walmart. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you go ahead and do that. Walmart usually has off-duty police security. They're going to arrest you. And then the guy who basically said, if they're not giving me my SNAP benefits, I can do whatever I want. And I'm just going to get, take the food that the person coming out. I certainly hope and pray that we never as a society get to that point. I understand that people need those benefits. Again, I think that the bigger tragedy is that we are refusing to enter into a continuing resolution, the so-called clean continuing resolution for government. And all it is an extension of the status quo, which is broken, but it's better than nothing. And I think that it's time for the Democrats and the Republicans to come together and just pass the darn thing and reopen government and not hurt innocent people on their SNAP benefits or on anything else, or to expect that air traffic controllers are going to work for free. I think that's just wrong.
But the hate between the Reds and the Blues, I mean, this is almost like a second Civil War. I mean, it's just like, it's such hate. I mean, they don't want to have the decency of coming together and saying, okay, I can see your point. Well, what about my point, though? The only person on the Democratic side that I'm actually seeing this believe it or not, it's Fetterman. You know,
Fetterman has been the voice of reason. You're right. Fetterman has been the voice of reason. And look, I've said this before, and I do this actually as a training as a consultant. When I talk about communications, and this is for leaders and executives, if we treated the average person or the persons that we work with like we treat our family, shame on us. And the politicians in Washington right now are treating each other kind of the way we treat family. You know, you call your siblings all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't want to say on the airwaves. Okay, you say things, you get mad at your spouse, you get mad at your kids, you get mad at your parents. Okay, and sometimes the people that are closest to us and our loved ones, we treat the worst way. And that's the way politicians in Washington are acting right now. And it's just wrong. And I think it's embarrassing that we're the most powerful country on earth, a country that millions of people want to aspire to be or to come to. And we can't get our act together on something as simple as just saying, okay, we're going to continue the status quo in funding. There's no reason for this to continue. They did it. The Republicans did it under Biden without problem. It shouldn't continue under Trump. I don't care who the president is. We should continue to run government. And if we're going to shut down government, if we're going to take money away from anybody, the first person we should take money away from is our congressmen and our senators, because they're the ones that control this. So they shouldn't get paid until they solve the problem.
I agree.
All right.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, Tom.
Thank you. 845-1100. I think we have somebody holding, but we're going to take a break. So stay on hold for just a minute, because Lynette, the award-winning Lynette, it says, I got to take a break. So you're listening to the morning call. We'll be right back.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
Have you ever considered becoming an iron worker? Local 395 is now accepting applications for their apprenticeship program. Go to ironworkers395.com. Look under the training section, click on apprenticeship, and scroll down to the application. You must be 18 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, and you must be physically able to perform the work of the trade. Find out more by calling the apprenticeship school in Lake Station at 219-962-7675 or visit ironworkers395.com.
Tired of that cracked driveway? Dreaming of a new patio or need a concrete partner for your next big project? Call RNC Concrete Construction, family owned with 30 plus years serving Northwest Indiana. From residential driveways to stamped patios and commercial foundations, we pour with pride and deliver lasting quality. Call today for your free estimate at 219-779-9370. That's 219-779-9370. RNC Concrete, where your concrete vision comes to life.
Siri, read me that text.
Sorry, I can't complete your request.
You want me to read that?
No, I got it.
Construction zone.
I see it.
Watch it. Oh my God. You're gonna hit him!
Oh, fuck!
When driving in a construction zone, be smart, be alert, be in the zone.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save lives. We're all in this together.
A message from Indiana's District Council of Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Do you want to get a vaccine, but it's difficult to get to your healthcare provider? Call the folks at Right Care Pharmacy. They'll come to your home, discuss your vaccination status with you, and administer the appropriate vaccine with expertise. They offer vaccines for flu, shingles, pneumonia, hepatitis A and B, TDAP, RSV, and COVID. They've been serving the Lake and Porter County community for over 11 years and are fluent in Spanish. Call Right Care Pharmacy at 219-655-5028.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, powers health.
All right, folks, we're back, and we're in the last half hour of the morning call on this day in October, the 29th of October, coming up on Halloween in a couple of days. And I always say this, but folks, I'll say it right now. I hope that you're going to give out candy to the kids. Kids are only kids once. We don't want them to grow up too fast, so let them enjoy the holiday and give them candy. And you know what? I know somebody who a few years ago said, "Oh, the kids are getting too old and they're coming for, they're trick or treating while they're still in high school." That's okay. That's okay. You know what? Do your part. Make a kid happy, even a high school student, and give them candy. 845-1100. I think we've got somebody that's been on hold, so we better go to that call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning. My name is Steve. I live in Cherville. And
yes,
I'm not really good about talking on the radio, but I want to make this brief. Why is it you can go to Florida or Colorado and you want to go to a restaurant and eat, and you could look up the health inspection and see the citations, and you can see the details, but you can't do that around here. We like to go out to eat, and we like to kind of look at that information. And the terrible part is my wife put a call into Lake County to the health department, and they switched over to someone else, left a message. They never called us back. That's kind of discouraging. And, it's I wanted to speak along the lines of the health inspections, not so much of the pop-up trucks, but they are inspected if you go to a carnival or a music fest. We talked to one of them, and they have a very rigid health inspection schedule. But I just don't understand why we don't get that opportunity around here. It doesn't make us very comfortable, I'll tell you that.
So, Steve, you actually raise a very good point, and you're correct. If you go to a festival like Pierogi Fest, which I ran for so many years, Pierogi Fest, the food inspectors came out beforehand. They were very rigid, very stringent on making sure that those vendors met all of the conditions under the health code. And you go to other states, Florida is one of them, where you can look up the health inspection on the restaurant. I don't understand why Indiana doesn't do that. I believe it's really at the state level, not so much as the county level. However, all food inspections are handled at the county level, so I don't think there's a law that would prohibit Lake County from doing it. And with all the modern conveniences of technology and sharing information, it sure seems to me like you'd be able to pull up on an app, hey, this was the last food inspection. These were the results. And I think for a lot of people, it would put them at ease. And I think it's a great idea. I don't know why. What I will try and do, I'll try and find out by next week why they don't do it.
What day is your show on WJOB? Because I've caught it a few times and it's very interesting. And I don't really listen to a lot of the different shows, but yours I try to catch. Well,
I appreciate that, Steve. I'm on every Wednesday morning beginning at 6 a.m. And I'll tell you what, I will reach out to my friends over at the Lake County Board of Health to find out why we can't have food inspection results online where you could pull it up. I think that's a great idea. And you're absolutely right. You go to other states. I'm trying to think, it might be Texas, but there is one state where they post the results not only online, but when you walk into the restaurant, you see they give a grade. So it says, this restaurant grade A or grade B or grade C, and I can't remember what state that is, but they actually have to display it right on the entrance of the door to the restaurant.
Well, I want to know if I go for seafood like in Florida, there's a couple of places that we won't go to because they're constantly getting citations for the shrimp not kept at the proper refrigeration, and I don't want to go. Like you said earlier during one of the conversations, somebody got food poisoning. I don't want to take any chances on that. I think that information should be there for you, the customer.
Absolutely, and again, this is a great idea, and I'll try and find out why this isn't done or why we can't do this. I can't imagine that Indiana has a law prohibiting it, and again, why don't we even have a law that encourages it? Other states have that. When I have, and it'll be in the next couple of weeks, Dandernock and Lonnie Randolph, state senators, have agreed to come on again. And when they're on, I'm going to ask them why we can't pass a state law that requires this. How about that?
Okay, but why didn't someone from Lake County call my wife back or me back and tell us, it's a state? And the reason I'm calling in, I don't call in normally, and I'm not comfortable talking on the radio, but in hopes of someone is listening that works for Lake County over there that can follow through on what they're supposed to do. That's what they get paid to do, I think.
Absolutely. Look, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when you call somebody and they're in government and they don't call you back. If you called or your wife called, they should have had the decency to call you back and tell you, here's the reason why. Maybe they can't do it. Okay, maybe there's some reason, and I'm going to try and find out for next week.
Right.
But again, why couldn't they just call you back and tell you so that you don't have to go on the radio and ask a question that seems so common sense? Why can't they just simply get back to you? It is beyond me. I can't make any excuses for that. To me, that's poor customer service.
When someone doesn't answer an email or a text or a phone call, you know what that means to me, okay?
Yeah, this means the same thing to me, too.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so, all right, well, thank you very much, and I enjoy listening to your show. I'll continue doing it, and hopefully we'll get an answer on that.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for calling. 845-1100, we've got some more callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Tom. I bet the reason they don't do that inspection like that is because it's Lake County, and that's just another way for somebody to make some side money. Hey, your food is great. I'll give you an extra $1,000 if their food's good,
But you know what? They don't do it in Porter County either. So why don't Indiana county boards of health publish the inspections? I mean, to me, I think that the last caller, I think his name was Steve, had a really good point. You go elsewhere. In Florida, you can look up the rating on a restaurant. In some states, not only can you look it up, but they actually have to display a placard that says, this is what the rating is that was given to this restaurant in the last health inspection. And you know what? If I'm going out to eat, I do want to know that they passed the inspection, that they did everything correctly. He was also right that when you go to a festival, those food vendors there is a very detailed inspection that they have to go through before they can open and serve at a festival. Well, what about the health inspections for restaurants? Should be able to access those too.
Hey, Tom, you know what you need to do? Get a couple of your beer drivers. Get a couple beer drivers on there, some delivery drivers, and let them tell you about some of the restaurants. They'll give you some good advice. When Tobes was open there in Cedar Lake, it was supposed to be one of the best steakhouses around. I used to deliver beer there. Their steaks would be right on the kitchen, right on the walk-in cooler floor, uncovered and everything. So the stuff you see in some of these kitchens would amaze you.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're a beer driver. If you remember Stroh's Nick Mossels, he was
for many years. I know Nick very well.
Of course, Rick, his son Rick and I are best friends. We've been friends now for going on 61 years. We haven't killed each other yet, but Nick used to tell us exactly what you're telling us, which is he said, he would go and make deliveries to restaurants, and he would say there's an awful lot of restaurants that I'll never eat in because of what he'd see.
Absolutely. One of the cleanest restaurants I've ever been in are actually two here in Hammond, and that is Freddy's on Kennedy Avenue and El Taco Real.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised on.
Oh, I lost you, I think.
Sorry, Tom will be right back.
Or their customers at risk.
There he is. Sorry, Tom, you got cut off for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Did you hear that? I'm not surprised about Freddy's or El Taco Real. I think they would never put their reputation at risk. Did we lose a caller?
He might have hung up when you were gone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. We'll take another call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, speaking of restaurants and quality of food, a couple months back, the Friday morning host, what's his name? Dave, the roofer. What's the guy's name?
Dave Kuziak, yes.
Kuziak, yeah. He had mentioned that there's a number of restaurants in the Harbor and East Chicago area that serve cat. Do you think there's any truth to that?
I hope not. I really hope not. I didn't hear that he said that, and maybe he said it facetiously.
He said it. He said it for a fact that he has a list of restaurants that he knows for a fact that serve cat. And I've always heard that as a rumor, and I thought that was a myth. But according to Buziak, that might be true. I don't know.
Well, if he knows that that's against the law, it's putting people's lives at risk, and he'd have a duty and a responsibility to notify authorities. I think it was probably more of a joke. You hear those comments every so often, but again, look, food safety is important, no doubt about it. And
you eat the wrong thing, it can kill you.
Yeah, and so again, I think the one caller again from that brought up the idea of having a site that you can go and check the inspection, I think is a great idea, and I don't see any reason why we can't do it. And I think maybe when Dan and Lonnie are on next time, I'm going to confront them with the idea of introducing legislation to require it.
I know Los Angeles County has the placards on the establishments, as well as I think Maricopa County out in Arizona does as well. So yeah, I mean it gives you a great indication of what you're walking into. Maybe in the Harbor they need to have a picture of a cat or a dog or a cat or a cow before you walk into the restaurant, according to Kuziak.
Well, again, I think he might have been facetious. I don't know. I didn't hear what he said, but
hey,
I certainly hope.
Hey, I'm not trying to gas you up. Hands down, this is the best show on WJOB.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. 845-1100. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Tom. What you doing? Brad Gimble here. How's it going?
Brad, we're doing well. How are you? What do you think? When you go to a restaurant, would you like to be able to access their last health inspection?
I mean, I guess so. Who wouldn't, right? Who doesn't want a case of the runs or something else? But I mean, you can have the most pristine Michelin-rated inspection and still get food poisoning. So, I mean, it doesn't always turn out. Yeah, it doesn't always turn out that way. So, I don't know. I guess it's a good thing. I don't know if I'm totally against the vendors in the street either. But yeah, we got to pay taxes to live, so everybody else does too. You know what I mean? There's so many caveats with that conversation. I don't know really what to do with it. But I
wish the one guy would call back that got cut off that knew Nick Mossels, because I had a couple more questions for him. But go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. No, I mean, guys like, Ray over there at El Taco Real and stuff, yeah, he's got overhead. He's got payroll. He's got everything. That's who you should be supporting. You shouldn't be, supporting some guy that rolls in the region and just starts, cutting everybody out. That's not, that's not loyal region, I guess, in my opinion.
No, it isn't. It isn't, Brad. And again, you and I both understand that, El Taco Real or Freddy's or any other restaurant, they're spending a lot of money within that community. They're paying payroll taxes. They're paying a payroll. They're supporting others. They're constantly supporting all kinds of good, good and well-intentioned events and activities. So there's lots of reasons to support local business, and it's a little disheartening when everybody takes up the argument and the side of, well, the fly-by-night vendor should have a right to be there. Well, okay, but he's taking away or she's taking away money from those established businesses too. I'm sure that all the people that stood in that block-long line didn't go to El Taco Real that night. They went home. So they missed. So El Taco Real missed out on a lot of business.
Absolutely, and the restaurants like Freddy's and El Taco Real and a few others around here, that's what makes the region. That's what gives the people the ability to go congregate and talk and have conversation, which is a lost art form in itself lately, it seems like, with everybody separating. But if you want the region to stay the region and kind of be the same, you have to support the businesses right here in the region. And I can tell you for a fact, I know this, because I know a few guys that will own pizza slices and pizza places in Illinois, all around the suburbs, and like five to seven of them, maybe even more, have closed. And they say, because I can't get the support, I can't get the money, I can't get the people in here. I mean, one guy 60 years plus, and he's going to lose his business, or he lost his business. He closed, and that's all he did his whole life. And it was over in Des Plaines, and it's just, I don't want that to happen to the region here. Hopefully people coming over, all the refugees from Illinois that I always like to say, hopefully they'll start supporting. But, I mean, with what I was going to call about here, with all these layoffs, have you seen the amount of layoffs that are coming? I think we've got a big tsunami here of things, and I think it's just the start of it here, and this is why people need to spend money in restaurants and kind of get to it, because, I mean, we got 48,000 employees at UPS, up to 30 at Amazon, 24,000 at Intel, 16,000 Nestle, 11,000 Accenture, 11,000 Ford, Microsoft, 7,000, Salesforce, 4,000, Target, 1,800, Kroger, 1,000, Applied Materials, 1,500, and Meta, which nobody really cares about, 600. But that's just a taste of who has announced they're going to lay off people. And so you better get out to there, people, if you want the region, if you want your favorite restaurant. You know what I'm saying? There's so much more going on here that we've got to stop the politics thing, man. Nobody's going to win here. This battle here, that's exactly what they want us doing. They want us looking the other way while all the cryptocurrencies are rising, all of that money is being transferred. They want us fighting over who's saying what. It's insanity. They're playing us, Tom. They're totally playing us. And I don't think
I totally agree. We are being played. We are being played as the American public. We're being played, and it's sad. And we're being taken advantage of. And again, if you want to shut down government, then the first person that loses their paycheck, and they don't get any chance to get it back, by the way, in my playbook, are the members of Congress. Okay, you shut down government, good. Then you're not getting paid until you start government back up, and you're never getting the back pay.
No, and it has to. They have to come. Actually, people have to come to a consensus to start really blaming Congress. Really get in there and start pressuring your representatives, because they are the problem. They are the ones that hold up all of this collusion, basically, against us, and we are the people, and we're the ones that are supposed to be making the choices, but they keep on convincing us that we need them, and we need them, and we need them, and we need them to rule us. And I think really the problem has been the cost of them. If we reduce the cost of them, we will get more money back in our pockets. And I'm not going to say Trump is some kind of hero and he's doing that, or the other side is doing it, because they're playing us, like you said. And they both have their faults. And until we come to an independent consensus and all say to ourselves, we all want, I always go back to this, we all want the same thing: lower bills, a roof over our head, and our family, food in our family's mouth. And if we can't agree on that, we're never going to get anywhere. We're just never
Brad,
going to get anywhere.
Let me ask you this. It's exactly what you said that leads me to believe that we should have term limits, because these people sit in Congress so long and they basically become so complacent and so worried about their own agenda that they don't worry about the people that they're representing. And to me, it's a reason for term limits. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, all those people have sat in Congress way too long. And if you get them out and you put new blood in there, maybe, just maybe, some of those people will actually have some common sense, like John Fetterman, who wouldn't have been my first choice. But you know what? He's actually a pretty decent guy. He comes off, when you listen to him, he's articulate, he makes sense, and he's trying to actually look at things from the standpoint of what's best for his constituents. And he's getting beat up by everybody for it.
Yeah, you got him. The problem with those guys is they're kind of like, they're going to have to get some respect, like a Tulsi Gabbard, where she was on the Democratic side there for a long time, and then it took some time, and now she's got plenty of credibility and plenty of respect. And I think if Fetterman wants to come to play, he better start opening his mouth about what he really knows, and he better start giving the American public a little bit more gas in their tank than just, I'm coming over to be a little bit more open. All these guys told you to put on a mask and choke on it. All these guys said the worst absolute thing. They wanted to fire you. They wanted you to take something that was experimental. They wanted to do all these things. That, to me, is something that I just can never let go. Whether the people that did wind up having a true sickness from it, and there was, and the people that didn't, there is so much behind that people just they don't even want to talk about it anymore. Keep it off limits. And that's another problem, too. Everybody's got to talk about all of it, everything that's on their minds, and bring it, no matter how conspiratorial it is, no matter how many feelings are hurt, no matter who decides that is offended by it. It has to be said, because I will always go back to this too, if we lose our ability to speak and they cut out our tongues, that's the end of it. That's the end of it. So you better put up with everybody screaming. You better put up with everybody whining, and you better come with a better solution to bring everybody together, or we're toast. I mean, you can see it now. We're so divided. Do I think it's any kind of civil war? No. They'll push a civil war on TV, and they'll make you feel like it's happening with all the paid social media people putting out all kinds of things to scare people. I'm coming for your food. I'm of color. I'm going to take it from you. You know what, man? I don't know one person of color that would say that to me. I don't know one person of color off social media that is saying the same thing or saying something like that. They're saying the same thing we are. The prices are high. The grocery stores are pigeonholed. Everybody's got to just kick in a little bit and figure it out. But the problem is, I don't know if people got any, like I said, gas in the tank left. There's food lines everywhere. I mean, and then there's people taking advantage of them, too. So when the EBT things get cut off, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope a solution comes here within the next 48 hours, because you're going to have bad actors, or whatever they want to call them now, in the crowd creating a stir, or getting on social media to say, I'm going to steal this cart of food just to get the views. And that's really what it's all about. It's the same thing with the taco guy. Everybody just wanted to be seen there and make a post and say, hey, look, I followed the taco guy all around the region, instead of going to get some tacos at my buddy who's been there since the late 70s. So I don't know. I don't know.
Good points. Hey, thanks, Brad.
Anyway,
thanks so much.
As always.
Thank you, sir.
Wednesdays, I look forward to it. You got to have a good day.
Thank you. 845-1100 is the number. And did we get to the point we don't have any callers? We have no callers. So call in right now, because you will be the last caller of the day. We're going to wrap up in about 9 minutes. So the last caller of the day gets the prize. I don't know what the prize will be, but they get to talk to me and to everybody else that's listening. I think Brad brings up some good points, folks. We're at a point and a stage where I don't think we're going to have a civil war. I think what we're going to have is just a continuing unraveling of society. And we've become this great, big, huge country, the shining light on the hill that Ronald Reagan talked about. We've become it. But the question is, can we survive? Can we survive in spite of ourselves? And I'm just worried these days that, our we've got these trials and tribulations and these issues that we can't put behind ourselves. We can't agree to disagree and respect each other. Ron Matlock called in and said, well, we're agree to disagree. And that's right. But we also agree on a lot of things, Ron. So, my view is that you have to respect people and you have to respect differences. It can't just be one-sided. You can't treat people again like you treat family sometime, because family we're rougher on than anybody else. Maybe we need to take a step back and start treating people a little bit more civilly, where we can talk to each other and we can recognize that we don't all have the same opinions, that sometimes we have differences of opinions, but we have the right to those opinions, and we need to create a fix when it comes to government, because government's not working for us. The federal government right now is not working for us. Oh, there's some great programs going on. Don't get me wrong. There's some great people, and the military is doing a great job and those kinds of things. But when it comes to the leadership in Congress, I don't think anybody could convince me, at least, that Congress is doing its job. It's not. It's dysfunctional. And we need to get to the point where we're functioning, where Democrats and Republicans can say, okay, I don't necessarily agree with you, but here's the right thing to do. For example, it's the right thing to pass the clean continuing resolution so that we can continue government, so that the people that rely on SNAP benefits, the people who rely on a paycheck if you're working for the TSA or air traffic control, they're able to support their families, to eat dinner, to do the things that they need to do to exist. And we've gotten beyond that. And there's a real problem. And it's scary if you ask me. Next week I want to spend a little time talking about Veterans Day, because Veterans Day honors our veterans. And it grew out of, Armistice Day and the signing of the treaties for World War I. And sometimes it's often overlooked, but we wouldn't be here without our veterans. We wouldn't exist without the commitment and the dedication that they made and put their lives at risk for the rest of us. And I think about the hundreds of individuals, the thousands, the millions of individuals, I guess I should say, that have put their lives on the line for this country. And I wonder how soldiers in World War II and World War I and Vietnam would feel if they looked at where we're at as a country today. So they risked their lives. The people in the Civil War, they risked their lives to create this great country, and then look at what we have right now. We've got a stalemate over funding government that should never ever exist. And to me, the most reprehensible part of the stalemate is the fact that the people who caused the stalemate are still the ones guaranteed a paycheck. You're a member of Congress, you're a member of the Senate, and you are basically getting, you're still getting paid, and everybody else is having to fend for themselves. And people who are on SNAP benefits and people who work for government aren't getting paid. They're not getting their benefits and their checks, because you can't get together and come up with a way to continue to fund government while you debate other issues like the Affordable Care Act. And again, the Affordable Care Act, you can't just simply say it should go away and get rid of it, because too many people rely on it. And it did fix some real significant problems. So I'm not opposed to the Affordable Care Act, folks. But does it need to be fixed? Yeah. And who else agrees with me that it needs to be fixed, that it needs to be amended and improved? But the guy who first proposed it, President Barack Obama, he's the one who says, yeah, you've got to fix it. There are problems with it. But we can't get to the point that we can get people to even sit down and talk to each other. I mean, we are, in year 2025, next year is the 250th anniversary of this country. And I wonder sometime, it's not going to be the Chinese, it's not going to be the Russians that destroy this country. It's going to be ourselves. We're going to destroy ourselves from within, which is what Khrushchev said, because we can't come together and come up with basic ways to to settle our differences and to move this country forward. And that's really, really sad. Lynette, you're young. You've got a bright future ahead of you. You like to think that you live in the greatest country on earth and it could always be better, right? You hope and pray that it's always better, that your generation. And what we've done is we've given you massive debt. We've given you all kinds of stalemate and all kinds of problems. And it's got to be just very frustrating for someone as young as you to look at it and say, what a mess these idiots have created for me.
Yes, and I think we are very capable of being civil with each other and trying to work together to come up with a solution or compromise, and for some reason we just refuse to do so, and I think it's causing us a lot of issues.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you know what? You can disagree with other people that you know, your friends, and even people that you don't get along with. But we pay Congress to come up with, to be our leaders, and they can't come up with some simple solutions to things. Why have the repairs to the Affordable Care Act taken 16 years to get done? It should have been done years ago. I mean, if your car, if you've got a bad tire on the driver's side, you get the tire fixed, right? You don't just keep on driving the car. But when it comes to Congress, we just keep on driving that car down the road and, oh yeah, look, the wheel fell off. Okay, well, now we're driving on the rims. That's okay. And or the tire fell off. Now we're driving on the rims. We, as a country, it's a great country, but we've got leaders that just can't find the time or the place or the words. They're too busy running the Fox News and CNN to get an interview than to sit down and talk to each other. That's wrong. That's just wrong. I don't know. It's very frustrating. It's frustrating for me, and it's got to be very frustrating for you because you've got this, this great life ahead of you and all kinds of opportunities. And again, I know you're going to do extremely well in life and you're going to be able to reach all those goals, but you want to also live in a country that's not, just stalemated over every little issue. And that's where we're at right now. And it's kind of sad. So, well, next week, you get to see me in person. I will be sitting on the other side of that glass from you, and then you'll have to give me all the hand signals just like you do when I'm remote. So it doesn't really change a whole lot for you, but I'll be there Wednesday morning and look forward to it. And it'll be the first Wednesday in the month of November. Can you imagine that? We're already into November next week. Kind of hard to believe, but we'll be back beginning at 6 a.m. and hopefully I can find an answer for Steve about the health permits. So I'll try and get that answer by then. Folks, it's been great listening and talking to you. Just love doing radio. Thank you so much for calling in and listening to me as well this morning and viewing as well. So thank you so much. You have a great day. We'll be back here again next Wednesday at 6 a.m. Keep it tuned all day, all week to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. It's the Morning Call with Tom Dabertin signing off for this week. Take care, folks.